Another episode of Perfect Tattoo History, and this week we have an ancient relic with us. I've known Ronnie a long time, probably since I started in this business, and Ronnie's got a lot of knowledge in him, and he's been around and he's seen a lot of shit in this business, and I'm glad I got a chance to sit down and talk with him today, and let's find out a little more about him. Let's just get to the meat of things, Ronnie. And how'd you get started, man? How'd you get started tattooing?
Well, I kind of grew up in an area where it was not everybody had a tattoo, but there was certain few guys that did have them, and it always fascinated at like a young age, like 8, 9 years old. I don't remember the shops in Coney Island because anytime I went to Coney Island, somehow the direction I went in, I avoided where they were. And then one time when they were coming down on them with this hepatitis epidemic in '59 thing that they were trying to nail them for, there was on TV, and I was over my grandmother's, and my uncle and my whole family, none of them ever spoke the word tattoo, had a tattoo, and all of that good shit. And all of a sudden it was a news thing, and they were like showing the front of a tattoo shop, and they were about to like interview the guy. And I know I've said this before on other interviews, but my uncle changed the station, and I went like, what are you doing that for? Like, I wanted to see, I was like 8 years old or something, and he went, you don't want to watch that shit. And that like clicked something even more in my mind.
And you couldn't do it, then you immediately wanted to do it.
Then I immediately wanted to know more about what it was, and I always seemed to be like hanging out in the ice cream parlor. That's where we hung out. Even when I got a little older, it was illegal to tattoo in the 5 boroughs, not the whole state, and I started with pin jobs like on my leg when I was 9 years old. I dotted some shit on me because I asked older guys, how do you do it? And they said, well, you do this, you do that, and but I wasn't really plucking it the way it was.
There was always a local delinquent that would give you the ins and outs of fucking yourself
and then there was one guy that came around when I was like 13, 14, that had a way of, Coney Island Freddie was tattooing in Seagate at the time. Seagate is a private community all the way at the edge of Coney Island, the opposite, like towards the ocean, whatever, towards the higher streets. Mm-hmm. And there was a guard at the gate, but what he used to do was, he used to be a thing of like, by this drugstore on West 15th to 16th Street and Mermaid Avenue, Mermaid. It used to have like 6 phones on the wall at the time because not everybody had a phone or nothing.
Sure. There wasn't
right. So you used to go to that phone and call him, and then he'd come with a station wagon when he knew there was 2 or 3 or 4 guys there, and he'd drive you into the gate, and he had this room he had this big house that had like 10 small apartments in it. It was like a big old frame house, and he lived there with his mother-in-law's wife, and he had a son from his first marriage. And off of his living room was a small room where his wife used to groom little toy poodles and sell them. And then on one side he had his tattoo stuff set up, maybe like a 4x7 area, let's say, and he may have had some stuff on the wall, but most of his stuff was in the books. And it's a funny thing because even years later, people used to come into guys' shops like in Jersey that were legitimate, and they go, don't you have any books? And they'd all go, where'd you see that? And they went, at Coney Island Freddie's, because he had them in there. So anyway,
he had them well trained, huh?
Right. So anyway, from this guy, I wound up getting his phone number, and I went with this other guy that was a couple of years older than me. I was, I believe, maybe 14. It was in October. It was like a rainy, damp, shit day, and I went and called, and he said, oh, you got proof? So I had I had a phony birth certificate that back then I whited out and filled in, and something else. I think. Well, that's all I did was show him that. He didn't give a shit anyhow, more or less. But you showed him something. So we got there, and it was $5 for a name, or what everybody today calls swallows. The guys in Brooklyn used to call them bluebirds.
Sure.
Right? And the thing with that was, it came out of the Navy thing about getting them after you cross the equator or something on your chest.
Sure.
But guys in the city or in Brooklyn, they get them like, they get their arms like here, there, and then at the end they get like 2 birds, like that completed their tattoo mission.
Yeah.
More or less. So I said to the guy I was with, I went, you want to get a name? I'll get a name. He went, oh, I can't do that. My family, my this. I was going to myself, I don't give a flying shit about nobody. I'm here. I'm getting fucking tattooed. It's that simple.
Mm-hmm.
So he says to me, all right. And he had like 6 or 7. He had a booming business. Like at night, he always worked a day job. He was a carpenter and a real good carpenter. And then at night he tattooed, and then Friday and Saturday he tattooed, and it was like, like a weight, like forget about it. So he says, what do you want? And at that time he was kind of, Freddie was Freddie, so you just got to understand, it's hard to say. I mean, I had him with me in my shop for 3 years, which I should get the Nobel Prize for, because, Freddie was Dutch, German, Amish, Jew, you don't know what he was, you know what I mean?
He was a little bit of everything.
He was a little bit of everything, and he was very thick-headed when it came to certain things, but he was also very, like, he told me stories like that, were cooler than shit. Well, getting back to getting tattooed, so I says to him, all right, I'll take a bird. So now the bird is this bird that's up here, which is like, it's either 65 or 66, I got it. And then Mikey, after 9/11 on Columbus Day, I made him put the flag behind the bird just to do something. And he did a lot of the dice and whatnot. Freddie also did the panther on me.
Nice.
Which I wanted a Christ head here, the one that everybody had with the cross. See, that was another thing.
Yeah.
In Brooklyn, you needed a 15 by 20 sheet with 20 designs on it. Nobody got sail ships. Nobody got geisha girls. Everybody got a rose with mom and dad, a panther head, the crawling panther, which I didn't want. That's why I went to
like
the
guys on my block, they got the big thing was parrots.
Oh, okay.
Fucking parrots, man. Everyone had a goddamn parrot.
No, and over there, everybody had a hot stuff. That was another thing that I didn't want because everybody had the fucking thing. So I came along with that a little bit, and I got one from him, and then the local guy in my neighborhood was Billy Knifler, and his name was actually Billy Knifler. They called him Billy the Knife. And Billy was, what would you say, Freddie sold him. Freddie started tattooing him when it was still legal, and then when it was illegal, he started tattooing him in Seagate. Billy had really white skin, and Freddie's stuff on him looked like, fucking
stickers.
Yeah, it was all crisp and clean shit and whatnot. And Billy begged them and carried on about teaching them, selling them stuff to do tattoos. Mm-hmm. And Freddie, on this one thing that he was saying, was he never felt Billy was right for the business because Billy was too nice of a guy,
at that point, yeah.
Which he was, but so he finally. Freddie had no problem putting machines in people's hands that he knew that he was making a little bit of a profit on it, but he also make you understand that, in other words, if you have a problem, you could come to me with it, where, like, later on, somebody that I know wanted to buy something from Spalding, and he said, yeah, you could buy it from them, but then what? If there's a problem, you're going to drive all the way to Albany instead of crossing the bridge and coming to Staten Island. And, he kind of sold him on that and helped him and knew that he was getting tattooed by him and whatnot. So Billy got into the picture. So then Billy was like the neighborhood guy that was right on the avenue where I lived in Dyker Heights. which is right by what is
So
a huge
what time
golf
period
course.
is this? This is like late 60s,
Yeah,
early
early
70s?
66,
Yeah.
68, like that. I got my first one in 66. I got a panther head up here from Billy in 67, and which later got covered by Zeke, which
Yeah.
he redid my whole top of all of this
You sure did.
and covered a bunch of shit. Back in 76 of December up at Big Joe's, he did that,
Yeah.
you know. And but getting back to Billy, Billy used to be in the corner bar drinking, and the stupids used to, you know, like bust his balls to come tattoo me. Go to him, I'm in the bar, I'm enjoying myself, leave me alone, you know. And they fucking ag him. And his mother, who was a nice old-fashioned type, they must have had him like middle, you know, in their 30s or something.
Yeah, sure.
And his father worked for the New York Times as a night watchman, I remember Oscar, he was a real nice guy. And I got real close with them, but previous to that, guys used to take him out of the bar, and his whole tattoo thing consisted of a 4 gallons of wine would come in box with a power supply, no flash, acetate stencils, ink already, he already had ink made up. He might have Vaseline, he might not have a bandage, he might not have paper towels, you know, and a razor, straight razor, and the needle and tube was already in the thing. That was what it was.
Yeah, sure.
He had a couple of, I think, Jonesy machines that Freddie had sold him. And, you know, they drag him out, and then the next day they go, look what the fuck he did to me. And I went, what the fuck did you deserve? You fucking broke the guy's balls.
Yeah.
He told you straight out, like, not tonight, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And the thing with him is that his mother didn't care for him bringing guys into the house and bringing them down the basement. Not that it was a finished basement, it was just the basement.
Right.
But she used to like sit at the top of the stairs and go, son, does your mother know you're getting that? Like she was like,
Really?
you know, like, you know, my son is doing this on you. Yeah, she's drinking in this fucking business, you know? And he'd go, Granny, enough, shut up, go upstairs, go watch TV, you know, come on. So what he would do was, Billy was the original guy out of everybody that tattooed be in the storeroom of a gas station, of a storeroom of a social club. I think even Bergen Beach stables that had horses, he once tattooed over there. You know, it was that wherever the availability was, he tattooed. He did my second tattoo in my friend's father's house in the basement.
Really?
And when his mother was upstairs and she heard this buzzing noise, you know, from the machine, she just opened the door, and his mother was from England. His father had met him. His father was a pharmacist, in fact, and he had met her when he was overseas in England, and he married her, blah 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 blah. And they said, he said, my friend Bobby says, we're painting slot cars. That's the noise what we're doing, slot cars or some shit. You know, so she didn't bother coming down anything.
Right.
And he finished the tattoo, and we drove him home, and we drove him back to Nettie's on the corner, and you know, that was kind of it then. And then I started going and getting a few more from him because he was more accessible than Freddie was, you know, with calling and everything.
Sure.
And he did a few on me, and then like in '68, I went there with a couple of my friends that were getting tattooed, and one of them said, why don't you try and do one? So I said, Billy, what do you think? He went, I want to do something, you know. So it was a little tiny Jonesy flower that almost looked like a daisy, but it wasn't a daisy, a little stem, 2 leaves. So on his leg, I started to do it, and I just started fucking laughing so fucking much, and I went like,
you're so nervous.
Yeah, I went like, you know, like that's it. So like he was stuck with like maybe a leaf and a half and a fucking stem, and that was it. I went, Tommy Red was his name. I went, I can't fuck with this anymore. Like, you know, he went, no problem, you know, whatever. And I don't know if later on when I got better or whatever that I ever did finish it, but then kind of like around that time, I was kind of getting serious with my old lady, with my wife, who I knew since I was 14. And at the time, I wind up, what was it? Yeah, 68. I wind up getting married to her at the tender age of 17 years old.
Holy shit.
17. My birthday's in.
Were you afraid you weren't going to get laid again?
Well, no, she had something inside her that was. She was, you know.
It's a treasure chest, huh?
Yeah, it was. You stepped up to the plate and you did what you had to do. So I mean, nobody forced me into marrying her or anything like that. I was just fuck it, you know. Yeah, I'll marry. You know, I lived with my parents for a while, and that was.
So when does this get you with a tattoo machine in your hand?
It didn't get me back into a tattoo machine in my hand till like around 71. I sent for Zeiss's catalog and got that.
Where did you get that at?
I got that from
Geographic or something.
No, I got it from Billy.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah, he had the address. He didn't have Huck's address. Huck's address was like. At that time, was like you had to be, you had to be recommended.
Right, you had to be like established and known, and
you had to be like.
He wasn't selling the scumbags then.
Right, he was more or less content at that stage with what he was doing. But anyway, so I sent for the catalog, and then. I was working delivering furniture like from 69 till 76, and then, you know, tattooing at night. But through the course of doing that, at the time when I got his catalog, then all of a sudden I got into a thing with my boss, and I wound up losing my job, and I was driving a taxi, and this, that, and the other thing. And anyway, my wife, God bless her, at the time he was selling used tattoo equipment for like $75. Right. So at the time, I couldn't.
So what did they get you 2 machines and a power supply? Or
no,
some tubes,
it might get you. It might get you a machine and a tube of a liner and a shader, and the wrong power to go with it. Which happened was, she wrote him and said that, you know, my husband's really interested, I don't know how the fuck she worded it, but she was good with shit like that.
She knew what to say.
She says, we have $35 to spend, you know, do you want to do something for the $35? So I never really mentioned that before to anyone, by the way,
really?
what I got into it for.
Yeah, that's great.
I never did. And with that, he sent me one of them T-top frame, you know, machine,
sure.
with a tube with the grip was like black, but it was almost the size of the tube, you know, just a little bit bigger, and a shaded tube and brass needle bars.
There's probably some kind of cable cover, you know what I mean?
Right,
yeah.
with a liner and shader, and he sent me an Aurora, like slot car train transformer, right, and a clip cord and no foot switch.
So then that was constant fucking power.
Right.
And that's no capacitors.
Nothing, right. So then I says to myself, So I remember that the power unit that Billy had was actually later on, Freddie admits that it was a battery charger. So that didn't have, that was like constant also, and what he did was he cut into the clip cord to hook up the foot switch to it. So I saw what that was, so I did that. So then after doing that, then I heard about a 24-volt transformer, not knowing that you needed a reducer and you needed this and that.
Why would you know?
Right. So I went to the fucking hardware store and bought a fucking transformer that got so hot you had to stick it outside the fucking window to cool it off to finish a tattoo. But getting back to it, I started off in my kitchen, you know, saying like, okay, I'm gonna tattoo, like, and I had some guy that worked for a printing company that could blow up stuff like from, like what Zeiss sent you, like on
like
a thing.
The little fucking mini things that you could blow it up. Yeah.
And it was the sheets that had they were bigger sheets than normal. There was just in fact, what's his name was selling them? Cliff White was selling them on that shit white paper. It was a peacock. It was a skull with wings. Well, the skull with wings was my
That's
first.
a while ago. So,
right. That was like at least 6 years ago when we had.
Well, you know, I had about 11 or 12 like original Zeiss sheets.
Oh shit.
That nobody had, and I gave out a bunch of copies of those, and I gave some to him too. So who knows if he put them together too.
Yeah, right.
Well,
no, these were the stock the way he had them because
you can see the pencil marks, everything. You know.
Oh no, those are different.
These were like they were black and whites,
right?
And it was on vellum.
Oh wow,
you know,
those were decent.
Yeah.
What I had was like, you know, but I knew how to cut stencils from seeing Billy cut them, so I cut plastic stencils from them. And the first guy I did was a guy that where I worked. He lived next door. And I said to him, hey, you want to get a tattoo? And him and his friend came, and on him I did a skull with big round circles and then wings coming off of each side, which I had no business doing what I did, but
of course
I fucking did it.
You know, like all of us, we all did like,
you know,
like tattoos that we should have never done when we were first starting, you know?
But the second guy got the standard skull with the snake, like from Jones.
Yeah, sure.
And then I did that, and I did it like I knew what I was doing. I went, look at this, second tattoo. Wow, what the fuck, you know?
Right.
I could do this shit,
was
you
it
know?
Confidence Builder?
Yeah, so then all of a sudden, Freddie had bought, Al Shifley had all of them designs that was in the middle of Huck's catalog.
Right,
Supposedly they came from him.
Really?
Yeah, that was the story that we heard from Freddie. Now he bought them, he bought all of them for $1 a piece, and he sold them to us for $4 a piece in black and white.
Right.
So in other words, like, you know, like one sheet was all birds, one sheet was eagles, one sheet was hearts.
Fucking gold, dude.
Yeah, so I got that, and I got fucking, I think I spent $80 and got what I got, 10, 20 of them or whatever.
Made $1 million off it.
And then started like, you know, trying to do them with that shit machine. And then I bought, I think 2 or 3 more shit machines from Zeiss around 72. And then he wound up dying on me in 72, I think he died. I'm not positive because then all of a sudden, when I tried to get in touch with him or call or whatever, they said he was deceased. And I was like, fucking great. What am I going to do now? How do I get springs?
Were they still selling any supplies, or that was it? Once he was there, they shut it down?
Well, they shut it down for a short period, I was told, and then his son-in-law started, I don't know how many years, a year or 2 later, picking it back up again. I'm not positive about that, but that's what I was told. Not that I wanted to do any more, but, well, anyway, so now I'm like, okay, that's great. I got this much black. I got no fucking springs. So all of a sudden I said, I either called Freddie's number or I forget how it went, and he wound up selling me like 4 ounces of black for what was it, $5? Yeah, for $5, which at the time you could buy a pint of Pelican for $12 in the art store. You know, and then springs, he was fucking charging me $1 for like a front and a back fucking spring. But like, who gave a fuck? Like, who else was I going to turn to?
Right.
So in the intro of all of this shit,
you're still lucky as you're lucky as shit because you still got a line on these supplies.
Right.
You're first starting out, you got good designs.
Right.
And you're starting to get a little confidence now. Right. You know what I mean? So.
Right.
And I'm sure everyone in the neighborhood, they're like, they know who the fuck you are now because you're tattooing.
Right,
you know?
and I was more accessible because I wasn't like...
You don't have to go pick someone up and take them to your fucking house.
Right. Here I took them into my, like I lived...
Sure.
I lived on the first floor in the back. So, in other words, it wasn't going up anybody's steps. There was only one lady that lived in the front that, like, gave me a fucking like hard on about like, oh, what's going on down? She lived there forever. She was
there's a nussbomb on every block.
Yeah. So like once I went like, yo, I'm tattooing people. Oh, the noise interferes with my TV. I go, look, Ellen or whatever her name was. I went. I finally got her in the hall. Like I'm looking up and I go, look at her, and I said, do me a favor. Stop breaking my fucking balls. This is what it is. and that's all there is to it.
Yeah.
Charlie, who owned the place, had a real estate in the front, and he had no fucking problem with it, so like, you know, that's it.
Right.
But in the interim, the first guy that I did the tattoo on, all of a sudden I'm working and I'm loading the truck, and he walks by and he's got this crisp, clean boxer boy here with Brooklyn printed underneath it with clouds, and I look at it and I go, where did you get that?
Is that a Polito?
He said,
Yeah.
on Lefferts and Albany Avenue. Tony did it. I went, holy shit. And at that time, you see, Tony says, I was the only one tattooing in 70 in Brooklyn. Yeah, that was on the spot and there because Freddie had broken up with his first old lady and met this other one, which he was living with her at the time, and he was trying to maintain some sort of thing at Seagate, but it wasn't really flowing, so Tony fell into it timing. That's the whole thing.
Fuck yeah.
Was timing. And plus, every day, Monday to Friday at 5:30, because the Board of Health closed at 5, that was his thing. He'd open at 5:30.
This was all over the country, you know, like a lot of you look at the hours on their cards, and it said from 5:30 till, you know, 8, 9, 10, you know. Paul's has cards like that. Paul Rogers has cards like that from Jacksonville, from 5:30 to 10. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think I've seen something like that.
So I mean, you avoid them by just working when they're not working.
So seeing that, hang on, I got a little dry mouth.
That's a lot of information coming out of the mouth. You know what I mean? It's a lot of friction there, Ronnie.
Yeah, there's a lot of, and it's true. I mean, I don't fucking lie. I don't give a fuck what anyone thinks, but I'm far from a liar, and that's what I fucking base my life on. Because if I was a liar, I'd be fucking sitting in Panama somewhere with hula girls around me and fucking $1 million in my pocket and not going to work every day. But
so you start seeing Tony's tattoos.
Oh no, I seen Tony's tattoo, and as soon as I seen it, that day when I got done working, I went home and I said to my old lady, you ain't gonna believe this. It's the guy that I said, I gotta call Billy and fucking tell him. Now at this point, me and Billy were hanging like really, really tough together. In fact, he was godfather to my son Joe, that you met, and his wife, you know, and you know, so I says to him, we gotta go see this guy. He says, well, how soon before? I said, let me eat. I said, we're going there. So I said, I had the stencil to the tree hearts and the bird from those sheets that I bought from Freddie. Yeah. So I brought that with me, and the peacock is not what I wanted, but at the time, Tony couldn't find the stencil for the parrot, which I wanted the parrot here. I think he wanted this because nobody ever picked this fucking thing. Between you and me, and I told him the same thing on that sit-down interview. I went, you know, and so we go down there, and I don't know how, at the time he wasn't where he last was. He was at 646, which was a small room, maybe the size of your waiting room, but cut the door out and go right like that. That's as big as it was. And he had a little station there, and then the boiler room was right next to him, where he had a full basement behind the door, but he wasn't making that the shop area.
Right.
So if you had to piss, you had to piss in the slop sink that was in the boiler room. That was the thing of that, okay? And he had people, well anyhow, we're standing there, this, that, and the other thing, and I said, oh, how you doing, you know? And I don't know how it came out, and when I first started, I didn't go under the name Ronnie, I went under Rocco's Tattooing.
Yeah.
Figuring I'd cover up my tracks once I got someplace.
A lot of guys did that. Lots of guys did that shit.
So I said, he went, who are you? I went, well, Ronnie. Rocco's, he goes, and you? Billy goes, what do you guys think you're working on? Wood? You're carving people up, this, that, and the other thing. Fucking room full of fucking people. And I'm like, fucking great, you know. But hey, it was what I deserved, you know. It was what it was. So then he went, wow, what are you guys using? You know, like when it thinned out a little bit, and he said, you know, oh, I says to him, that's how it started. I'm sorry, back it up. I said, yeah, I want this here. He goes, what are you doing with a stencil? Then I said, I tattoo, and Billy tattooed, and oh, you're the guy. And then that started that rolling.
Yeah.
So then...
You're the guy who's fucking everyone up.
Right. So from then, it went to like, you guys can't be using that stuff. Hey, what do you give you a train transformer, and all this bullshit? He says to me, so we didn't come off like regular neighborhood shitheads.
Yeah.
You know, we fucking showed him respect from the get-go.
Yeah, that you wanted you wanted the right shit.
Yeah, because with Tony, he hated, literally, God rest his soul, he hated whoever he tattooed, especially if they were from my neighborhood. He goes, they're the fucking worst. You live in the worst fucking element in the fucking city, or Avenue you guys. These were all old men, were fucking knock around guys.
Right.
You know, that's how they grew up. So
sure.
they didn't, and he had, one thing he didn't have was, he didn't have the right diplomacy, he didn't treat them in the right manner. Who's the next case? Oh, you want that. It was more or less like a cut and dry thing, because Stanley and Walter naturally, God bless them, they instilled in him that Bowery thing. You don't make friends with them, take their fucking money, end the fucking story.
Yeah.
So that was cemented in his head. So very rarely did he, you know, smile. He'd go, oh, you want that one? Everyone gets that one. Why don't you get this nice girl? He always wanted to do pinups.
Yeah.
He didn't want to do the Christ there with the cross behind it that made him all his fucking money.
Right.
You know, so anyhow, talking with him and whatnot, I don't know if it was the same night or that night I wind up getting this, and I wind up getting this also the same time, and I think it was $50 for the both of them.
That green is
green has never been touched.
The red's in there, the yellow's still there. I mean, it's all there, dude.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, most of this, that's what makes me laugh. Everybody talks about 14 needle liners and everything.
You don't need it. Time does it.
Right. This is a 5 needle liner.
Exactly.
And also that other stuff where they say Brooklyn Blackie stuff. Brooklyn Blackie stuff. God rest Brooklyn Blackie. He did a lot of tattooing, but I never seen nothing he did where I went, wow, look at that.
Listen.
Because they put the needle in there, and
let's just get this straight. Just because they were old, don't mean they were fucking good.
No,
there's a lot of fucking guys, people fucking like, they put them on a pedestal, they sucked.
They sucked.
And they were fucking scumbags.
Genuine.
You know what I mean?
Genuine.
Yeah, come on,
they were just getting them in and getting them out.
Right.
And what they don't understand, all these 14 needle situations, is they never soldered them that far down, just like we never soldered them, and we made needles that far down.
You did that, it was like tattooing with a fucking nail, dude.
But with them, you got to realize they weren't changing that fucking needle, so the more they used it, the more it spread. So all of them fucking banners, ribbons, I don't want what the fuck you call them anymore, around that fucking round turn, it became a magic marker fucking line.
Yeah, man.
Or the eagle or the panther was a blur within like 2 years. You couldn't see the teeth, the mouth. Guys used to tell me, can you go over this? I go over it. I can't even fucking understand where the fucking shit was, you know? But so Tony tattooed us, and Billy got Brooklyn written in between. He had a lot of stuff on him, and Tony liked all the stuff Freddie did on him. Because Freddie always, one thing about Freddie, Tony was more on the deadhead black shading of Stanley and Walter. Freddie was more on that fucking chop shading or that sweeping out. Every fucking thing he did, he always did that on the fucking money. He didn't get color in because he'd shade color in instead of like, you know, like,
so showing it.
Right. And he fucking, to me, to this day, I still don't care for them. Jonesy machines to me never appealed to me, never did anything for me. I tried working with them. All they were was a big,
I had a bunch of old Jonesy's,
top-heavy,
biggest pieces of shit. You know?
Yeah. Literally.
You know, made the fucking Jonesy framework was fucking Scott Sterling. Like those color kings. You know, you get those the Jonesy frames from National and put them together. Those things ran like a motherfucker.
Oh yeah, I believe that.
Great machines.
I believe that.
But the ones from Jonesy were shit. Dude.
Yeah, those
coils were different. I mean, everything.
Yeah. Plus the jaws sucked on them.
Yeah.
The whole fucking thing of it. But anyway, getting back to
And no
Tony.
capacitors.
Yeah,
That don't do you any favors either.
And some of them, Big Joe was making those in aluminum.
Yeah.
And they weren't supposed to be half bad. I never tried one, but I'm just saying.
Way easier on your hand, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, definitely. So getting back to Tony, I don't know if it was that night or the next time we went back there, it wasn't too far after. He said, you guys want to, get good, have good equipment, and I seen that he was using lightweights, and I says to him, yeah, So he said, all right, and he gave us Spaulding and Rogers. Now,
wow.
we had heard of, or Billy had heard of Spaulding and Rogers, but he had never seen anything, and there was no listing or anything like that, and whatnot. Now, Pete, God bless his soul, he was on the same thing when he broke in with Pete Poulos, who wouldn't give him, now, this is the truth. Pete Giaquinto testified to the fact that Pete's first shop, right across from Belmont Racetrack, Pete helped him panel the shop, put the shop together, and everything else. Right? Giaquinto. Okay. To Pete Poulos. Then Pete said, I'm interested, I want to get into this, that. I'll buy the stuff, this, that. Pete was giving him stuff that was used already, needles that were used. And here's a guy that, at the time, they were upstate together. And they worked out in the same gym. Sure. He didn't hang with his crew, because Pete had his own crew that he could more or less control, and Pete was not a guy to control. In other words, Pete said to him, why don't you leave your stuff here? It's better that way. And Pete went, well, no, I ain't leaving my stuff here. I'm bringing my stuff home to the basement. Pete felt like he was going to get ripped off or whatever. So he brought his shit home. But anyway, what he was doing was, every time he'd buy a tube for him and Richie, he'd charge you double and buy one for himself. Right. So that's what the deal was with him.
So he's just getting free supplies.
So what Pete did was, I know I got off the end with Tony Polito giving me, but anyway, what Pete did was, he kept fucking hearing Spaulding and Rogers, and then he was calling up Albany information and asking for tattoo supplies, this, that, the other thing, and he got an operator that said to him, there's a Spaulding and Rogers manufacturing. Yeah. He goes, really? So he said, give me the number. So he got the number, and they mailed him the catalog, and the catalog back then consisted of a stapled 8.5 by 11 sheets, and he used to send you photographs of the machines and the power supply, little black and whites. Really? Yeah. I don't know if I still have them. Shit. And that was from '73, so Pete got his stuff, around the same. So anyhow, what Pete did was, this is so good that I got to put this before my shit, is that right away, when he got the fucking number, or when he got the catalog, he called up Richie Montgomery, because Pete used to still go by there once in a while, because then Pete Poulos was going to Colorado to go establish there, and and there's also another angle of drugs on his end. We don't want to need to know, and who cares? And so he said to Richie, you ain't gonna believe what I got. Richie said, what? He said, Spaulding and Rogers catalog. Now, Richie lives in, they call it College Point, Queens, which is all the way by one of the bridges that go to Manhattan from Queens, either the Triborough or the Whitestone. I don't know which. But anyhow, he was at fucking, Pete lived in Ozone Park, which was almost by the Belt Parkway all the way on the other end, where Howard Beach is. He was over there in 5 fucking minutes. Really? And they started going through it. And he goes, I don't fucking believe it. And then the both of them are going back and forth, this, that. So Pete goes, I don't know about you, but I think either tomorrow or the next day, I'm going up there.
Yeah.
And Pete, I think, only had one kid at the time. Yeah, I think he had one of that. So Richie says, I'm going there too. So Pete says to him, yeah, but you got to ask permission first from Pete because you know he ain't going to let you go alone.
Yeah.
So what happened with that was, this is a good story, that's why I'm telling it.
I'm on the edge of my seat here.
When he got up there, who was there but not only Richie, but Pete's, I don't know if Larry Romano was actually partners with him at that stage, but he did all his carpentry work. Larry was a carpenter, he was in the Carpenters Union. Plus he wanted a tattoo, which he's dead also, and he was never much of a tattooer. He wound up with 9 to 10 tattoo shops after Pete died, and Diane didn't know how to run the situation, but that's all together.
Yeah,
well, anyhow,
yeah.
Larry winds up there, and Richie's there, so all of a sudden Pete goes in, and Huck had a little small building, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not even equivalent to half of this store. And the machines were on a thing where he made them, bench and this and that. So when he walked in there, I think he went right up to Larry, or Richie went, what the fuck's going on? Larry goes, what, you got a problem? He goes, yeah, I got a problem. I came up here to do business with him, and now all you guys, but then Huck went, wait a minute, let's just, he says to Jay, his son, was with him at the time. They weren't enemies at the time. So he says to Pete, you go with Jay and I'll handle this guy's there, which Pete felt like, I don't want to fucking talk to the master, but I got the kid, but that's cool. So from that, they had their consult, whatever, and Pete bought whatever, and that and the other thing, and they parted their ways. Then Pete wound up getting on the phone and calling Colorado and calling up Poulos and telling them, I can't fucking believe what you did to us, he goes. And Poulos goes, what are you trying to say? What do you mean? He goes, you fucking gave us fucking needles that were used, plus you sold us stuff that was double the thing. He goes, I thought we were friends. I thought you don't understand, that's only to make you stronger and this and that. He goes, I don't give a fuck what you try and sugarcoat it with, but it's a bunch of fucking shit. Like, you took advantage of me. Right. I was your fucking friend.
Yeah, you fucking called him out, huh?
He said, yeah. He said, what the fuck? He goes, someday you're going to fucking realize that, it ain't that way. He goes, well, I don't fucking give a fuck, and I don't want nothing to fucking do with you. And that's the end of that fucking shit. So that was that. But getting back to Tony P, he turned us on to Huck's. When I called up, he said, Huck Spaulding here. I said, yeah, Huck, my name is Ronnie. I said, right away he says, who gave you my number? I says, Tony Polito. He went, okay, if Tony gave it to you, it's okay with me. What could I do for you? I said, I'd like to get your catalog, and I'd like to order from you. I heard your machines are much better, this, that. I said, at the time I had bought, in fact, what's his name wound up with it? I bought this heavy tarred power unit that would go through the roof, with a rheostat on it that he was selling. That was supposed to be a supreme thing, which I wind up selling to some guy to buy a desk to tattoo off of for like $35. And you know who wound up with that power supply on tow? Steve Delgado. Okay? This is what I heard through the grapevine anyhow.
That's fine.
But anyway, so on the phone he goes, well, I'm telling you now, that power unit ain't going to run my machines. Right away, in other words, forget that shit. So what happened was, with that, I said,
well, you got to buy his power unit.
Yeah, you had to buy his power unit. So I said, all right, this, that, and they gave you directions of how to go there, this, that. And I got, like I said, just printed,
yeah, sure.
of the flash that he had. He didn't have the extensive that he had. And I took a ride up there on a Saturday with my wife, and I had my other son, my 2 boys. This was in '73 of August. And I took my income tax money from working, $200, and I went and bought, and he went, oh, you should have called me, you know, I don't know what. So now I swear to this day that he pulled, not to lose the money, he pulled them lightweights from somebody else that knew had a tattoo.
Really?
Because on the side of the post going up, it had like 3 strike marks in it. And it was chromed over it, but they were there like.
Right.
And everybody, so anyway, so I says to him, well, I need a power unit too. So he goes, oh, you should have, the only power unit I could sell you is a chrome one. I'm the only one that I've ever spoke to that has a chrome lunchbox, the big one,
really?
Power unit.
Really?
And I still have it.
Fuck.
So he goes, it's $15 more. At that time, they were $100 a black wrinkled power unit with the foot switching clip cord. I went, I'm here, give me the fucking thing. Like, what am I going to do?
Right.
So with that, I got that. I bought some already mixed green, that fucking bright green that you needed a fucking hammer and shovel to get in, and it turned fucking brown if you worked the skin too much.
Well, I mean, you know, a lot of it's got the trick was like doing yellow first and then doing that, so you always had a color underneath.
Yeah, you had something to base it on, but who the fuck knew that, you know? And then it's new red,
Camden,
then it's brown.
You know?
Oh yeah, well,
they had
this shit down.
Absolutely.
You know, so, and I bought that stuff, and then I went home with it, and I was fucking great. Like, if somebody came over that was friends with my wife, and they brought their husband, I go, hey, how about a tattoo? Like, you know, like I wanted to fucking
chair.
So I fucking, like, took the fucking liner and, like, just fucking plugged in the shit and fucking set it to I don't know what. And it fucking like, put in fucking lines, and, you know, then I started fucking coloring this shit like, you know, this is fucking great. And I called Billy up and I went, Billy, you ain't gonna believe it, but these fucking machines, they really work. So he fucking orders just 2 lightweights, I think. I don't think he had, I think he still had his other power supply and shit. And he calls me up and he goes to me, what the fuck are you telling me that this shit is good for? Put some wine in, this, that. I went, you want to come down here and fucking tattoo somebody with them? I said, I'm telling you something. He goes, I can't even fucking scratch the skin with these fucking, the way that's set up.
Are you still using the same power supply or what?
So Tony once said, Huck will set them up where they won't hurt anybody. So that's why I say what he gave me, the way maybe the spring tension was, the way the situation was, it was ready to use by somebody that knew how to use it without carving them up.
Exactly.
Because Tony always swore, he says, I make it where it'll make a mark in the skin, but it won't destroy them because they don't know. It's like giving someone a loaded gun that doesn't know how to shoot a gun.
Absolutely.
So that was the whole take on that situation. And then from there, like, I still was confident, but and then all of a sudden, like, I hooked up a bell, like, outside where the other door was, so I know who was coming, and had a dry cell battery. It was pretty cool. And it would ring in my fucking apartment, and I go answer, you know, and I go to them, you got any tattoos? And they had a fucking beautiful tattoo from Tony, and I was like, what the fuck you doing here, like, you know?
Right, you're getting nervous, you know?
So I went, oh, that's great. I go, what can I, well, you tattoo. You know, my friend Joey got one, this, that. I went, yeah. I said, but tonight I really can't do it, this, that. So then I don't know if I called Tony or I went over there and I says to him, Tony, this guy came by and he had one of your fucking tattoos, and I was like, how the fuck am I going to compete with that? He went, don't worry about me, don't worry about the guy down the fucking block. He goes, do you want a tattoo or do you just want to play with this shit? If you want to get serious and you're going to tattoo, don't worry about what anyone else is doing. Do what you're doing and keep doing it, and you'll see that you'll get better and you won't even think of this shit, he said. So don't even fucking think of this.
That's the advice you could have got.
Right. So with that, I used to work a fucking job, and then if I had nobody coming or anything, I'd eat and I'd fucking run over to Tony's and I'd just sit in a chair. If he was tattooing over there, I'd sit in a chair and I wouldn't say a word. It wasn't like like some guys go, well, you make a line like this and you put the black. It was no
shut the fuck
fucking.
up and you steal with your eyes, you know?
Not that he said to me, you got to shut the fuck up, but I just sat there and respected the fact that I'm not gonna, and I just watch him, and I just watch him, and I just watch him.
I mean, it was a privilege for you to sit there
just
and be able to
in a shop with someone that was knowledgeable. Not only that, that was putting on stuff that was good in the skin. It wasn't. There was enough bums. There was always guys in South Brooklyn, here, there, and
plenty of scratchers.
Right.
Always.
There was always plenty of them. There was no. So, just from that, then all of a sudden, the only thing with him was then like Tony was like didn't know when to stop. Like by 11 o'clock, you already got like that pocket over here full. And 5 more guys were knocking on the door. I remember this, like I'm sitting here talking to you, and he go to me, I go, what are we doing? We going to eat? He goes, there's 5 of them. He goes, I'll do them in an hour. He goes, then we'll go eat. I'm going myself, yeah, you're fast, but you ain't that fast. Okay, so 11 wound up to be 1 in the morning. That was now we're sitting on Utica Avenue in some dive diner that is either got hookers that make crackhead hookers look good and junkies and any other derelict, and we're eating fucking cheeseburgers at 1 o'clock in the fucking morning. Right. And I'm sitting there going like, what the fuck am I doing here, right? And then Tony was always great, which I never could, and I told Fry this too, and like he looks at me like sometimes like, like, what do you say? Tony would be talking to you in the car, big conversation, and then he go, okay, and he just fucking walk out of the car. And then I always used to go to myself, I don't understand, like, not, it's nice talking, nice bullshit, good night, no, just fucking leave. I used to go to Pete like, what's with this? And then from that, I'd always bring around somebody like, I got hooked up through Billy, through this guy, Carl Mann, that worked for the phone company, and he was tattooing with a homemade machine that he made out of a fucking razor or some shit, an electric razor.
Yeah, yeah.
So Billy says, there's this guy Carl, this, that, and the other thing. He's married, he's got a wife and kid, lives on 22nd Street, blah, blah, blah. So now I had that fucking Zeiss shit, right? So I says to him, what's he tattooing with? He goes, he's tattooing with a homemade thing. I go, you want to buy a Zeiss machine? I figured, what the fuck? I wasn't selling my original one, which lucky enough didn't get robbed when they robbed my fucking safe in '04. That was one of the ones that I found down the basement. I made a little workroom to tattoo, which turned into like everything that Timmy gives me winds up in this room, and what you gave me, because I ain't got room to put it in the shop. But anyway, and I was looking through a cigar box, and I was like, fuck, it's here. I went, that's my, so anyhow, so I sold Carl the machine for $20 or some shit. So then he started doing like better shit than he was doing, and he used to tattoo right in his living room. And then somehow, I don't know if you ever heard of George Mitchell, the cop. He was a transit cop. And he was like, he got to know Freddie when Coney Island was still, he was a little bit older than us. He's probably like 75 now. And he used to go by Freddie's shop and this, that. But Mitch was more of a politician, I called him, than a tattooer. In other words, he started to do an eagle on somebody, but he screwed it up. This is when Coney Island was open. So he went to either Blackie or Freddie to finish the tattoo.
Right.
So anybody that does that showing you like, they ain't got the incentive. Then he put it on the side for years, but anything to do with tattooing, like the first convention in Houston, he went to. And that's the guy that's got the tiger on his back coming out from the Bondman Bailey poster.
Yeah.
Now, the deal with that is, this is screwy. He was really tight with Freddie. Then he heard of Tony. Freddie cuts the stencil for the back piece of the tiger. And Freddie's supposed to do it. George turns around and goes to Tony to have him do it. So Freddie wasn't.
That's a big no-no, huh?
Yeah, Freddie wasn't that in love with the idea, but you know, he went, it's George, you know, this, that, and the other thing. So, true that, George, we wound up, me and Carl, like around 76, instead of tattooing still in my living room, you know, I was getting more people. I said, let's go look for a fucking store someplace. So now, on McDonald Avenue, there was an L train that ran over there. My mother-in-law lived on the next block, it so happened. And so we wound up renting the store for like $90 a month, and we painted the windows like a social club, which had to be a foot of no paint on top, all the way around, right? But we didn't have no charter or nothing. And we get there, me and Carl, we wind up going partners. We put all our shit together and all the flash, and first we had it in books, then I went, fuck this, let's put it on the wall like a real tattoo shop, you know?
Yeah, sure.
And then fucking George used to ride that train, that was part of his thing, and he used to stop in there in fucking uniform and fucking hang out and bullshit with us and everything, yeah. And all of this kind of shit, which was cool, and then from there...
So whose shop was that? Was you and who else?
Me and Carl Mann. He's passed away. He was a heavy drinker. He used to always say, when I drink, I tattoo better. And at one point, I used to try and like school him, like tell him, no, Carl, like, you know, he started painting flash and shit and painted that big dragon like Davida has on his back. And some of them other ones he painted, which they weren't half bad, you know. And the truth of the matter was, he was right, because usually when he did drink, like, then 7 out of 10 looked like
he wasn't so shaky.
Yeah, you know. Then when he didn't, then they were. But anyway,
of course.
But before I got with him, that's what happened. George wind up getting Freddie, that was now living in Staten Island, to come to Brooklyn on top of this bar on 74th and 5th Avenue, right across the street from where Mark had them art shows at the bar.
Yeah.
Okay, it was right there. In fact, Mark's shop, where he is, you can look across the street, the bar is still there. Well, on the second floor, it was a gambling house there, and on the third floor used to be a gym, and that's where George used to work out with other cops. Like, they didn't give a fuck about the gambling joint.
Yeah.
Right? So what happened was, the place became for rent. So George talked Freddie and Carl into going in the place, and George supposedly had a piece, and then Freddie had this friend that worked for the sanitation that wanted to learn how to tattoo. So it was them guys more or less that were there, and I was on 13th Avenue. So anyway, what happened was, one day by myself I went up there because I half-assed knew Carl, and just to see, like, oh, this guy's put together a shop, and like I was still in my house, you know. And Freddie was always like, you know, like, so I gave him my card. I says, yeah, I'm Ronnie, I tattoo on 13th Avenue. I says, you know, you can throw it away in the garbage if you want when I leave. I don't give a fuck.
Right.
You know, like I came off like that with him. So he just fucking looked at me, you know, didn't say much. So from that thing lasted a little while, and then there was no business like they thought they were going to generate, right. You know. This was like 75. I mean, Tony was already running full fucking stream.
Oh, yeah, I'm
and
sure,
then I was picking up a nice piece of the stuff that wasn't going to go all the way into that neighborhood.
You
know, even though I was charging, they go to me, Tony would get $5 less for it. I went, you want to leave your own neighborhood and go down to where, what do you want me to say, an all neighborhood of ethnic origin? You know, I mean, that's up to you. But over here,
during that time, I mean, every big city was like that.
Yeah.
You stayed in your fucking neighborhood.
Everybody stayed where they stayed. It's just
very
like
provincial, man.
Very, very much so. If you worked with guys, you didn't go to their bar at night, and they didn't come over to your neighborhood at night. And drink
everyone's like buddy and shit.
Right.
Everybody and these guys are fucking cut your throat. You know,
right.
I don't understand it.
Nobody had a problem with the situation the way it was. And then all of a sudden I started getting, from the 40s and the 30s, I was getting a Puerto Rican crowd that just the fact that I invited them into my home and I was giving them tattoos, these guys were better than my own kind.
Yeah.
They appreciated it
Yeah.
If they brought a beer, they said, "Is it all right if I drink this?" I went, "Yeah, now that you asked me, it's all right. You know, no problem."
Sure.
You know, and they used to tip me, and they used to treat me better, and bring me more people than my own neighbors. You know, my own neighborhood, my own fucking blood.
Yeah.
You know, and I never had a problem with them.
Yeah.
So that worked out. So that thing with Freddie and them guys fell apart. Freddie went back to Staten Island.
Honestly, the biggest cheapskates are white guys.
White
Biggest
guys,
fucking cheapskates, man.
Well, Irish guys too.
You know too.
I mean, it's not the
like you know what I'm saying. Like
well,
you know, they would fucking say this and that, and to me, you're gonna tell me about Jewing someone down. That shit ain't flying in front of me, motherfucker.
Right, exactly.
Right? But you know,
exactly.
The deal is like I don't have a problem with anybody. No. You guys are the fucking worst.
No,
you know what I mean? Oh man, you can't do it for $50.
Yep.
Like,
yep.
No.
Yep. That was the whole.
Go paint my house for fucking free. You know what I mean?
Well, the best was when I was down in Pete's basement helping him around. I lived in Pennsylvania, but I'd worked that shop so many days, but I always worked New York and other shops because I never wanted to be just my shop 7 days.
Right.
I always wanted to go bounce and see what someone else was doing, getting what.
Yeah, sure.
And anyway, when I was down there, it was like, you know, Pete would tell them Pete would work only by appointment. You had to call the day you wanted to come, and he'd set it up that way. Mm-hmm. And he'd tell them, like, who do you got work from? They say, Tony. He goes, I'm going to tell you right now, I don't have Tony prices. My prices are higher. I work by appointment. It's up to you. Do you still want to come? I'll put you down.
Right,
you know, don't hang me up, blah, blah, blah. So, you know, but that worked that way too. But getting back to Carl and Freddie and that whole situation,
right.
that dismantled and went, you know. So then I went back to
you're still out of your house at this point.
Yeah, I'm still at my house. I still live
you're
up.
what, mid-70s? It's
in the 75. In 76 of January, we wind up renting this store that I was getting to.
And where was that at?
On McDonald Avenue in Ditmas, in Brooklyn. It's the Borough, but it's Borough Park, I guess, area.
Uh-huh.
And
how'd that one work out?
It wound up, we get there at 7 o'clock, and by 7:30 we had like 6 or 7 people waiting, you know. So many would go to Carl, so many would go to me. I sat here, he sat over there, and we just tattooed.
That's the best feeling in the world.
Yeah.
Knowing that you just, you know, you're going to sit there,
yeah.
you got some good, cool fucking tattoos waiting. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, it just puts you at ease. Nice. You know? Yeah, you're
really
at ease. You're not sweating anything.
And then at 11 o'clock, at 7 o'clock, we'd park, and we'd be standing outside. A patrol car would pass, never asked what we were doing, why we were there.
Yeah.
At 11 o'clock, we'd close, maybe be sitting outside bullshitting, having a cigarette at the time. Never say nothing. Now, that ran from January till September. We were putting a hurting on Tony's situation. So much so that when we went to go visit the pirate in Ginsburg, right, he was going, who are these guys on McDonald Avenue? I went, I'm the fucking guy on McDonald Avenue. Because with Tony, he had to fucking bark back at him because he tried to bitch talk and shit. So I used to go, why? He goes, I'm going to open a place right across the street. I went, go ahead, I'll give you the fucking number. There is a store for right across the street. I said, go ahead. He goes, oh, I see stuff that comes out of there, this, that. I go, oh, that's me and Carl, that's what we're doing, you know. What do you want me to tell you? He goes, oh, you guys are doing all right. I said to myself, well, I mean, he made his own grave as far as like going down to like tattooing for $10. Like. I mean, we were there one day, me, Pete, and Freddie, I'm not sure. Oh, no, me, Pete, and Snooky. And some broad wanted a little tiny cross on her foot, and it was on one of them Ted and Aiden sheets that had like 100 little fucking crosses on them. Mm-hmm. And she goes, but I got $10. So he goes, no problem, sit down. Tony would fucking use one machine for lining and coloring. And everybody got a sterile needle. That's one thing about that guy. Wow. From before anybody was sterilizing,
really,
he was fucking sterilized. That's no fucking lie.
There was motherfuckers using speed racks in the 90s, dude. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
You know, we're not that far away from.
But so he winds up. He looks at me and he looks at Pete. He goes, "You wouldn't do that for $10? You let it walk out the door?" I went, "I got a $20 minimum. They don't give me $20. I ain't doing a fucking tattoo." Right. He goes, "Yeah, but I got $10." And I looked at Pete and I looked at Slicky and I went, "And you got all the scum of the earth coming in here." Exactly. I mean, the man literally tattooed.
You're putting out that kind of bait. That's the kind of shit you're gonna catch.
With a 50-gallon garbage pail next to him, right here, and was tattooed right here, and guys were throwing fucking pints of fucking vodka, gin, whatever they were drinking, beer bottles, crashing into the fucking thing that he was there fucking tattooing.
Not phased whatsoever.
Right, and you know, he was more. Let me tell you something. That man, if he ever thought that he wasn't getting fucked by who he was partners with, would have been a millionaire. But he always had this crazy thing in his head that, in other words, he went into printing T-shirts for like before there were any royalties on Rolling Stone shirts or anything. Him and this fucking school teacher would start like 3 weeks before there was going to be a show at Madison Square Garden.
Yeah, sure.
And they cover every fucking exit of the place coming out, and they walk away with like $3 or $4 grand for their fucking
bootleg shirts.
For bootleg fucking shirts. But then naturally, Tony could never have a. Then Tony started with making them. Well, Wes called them Apollo machines. The machines that Tony made that were bent up.
Oh shit! Yeah.
And with the bottoms.
Yeah.
Well, he showed this guy Andy, who was a machinist down the road, how to make them and how to make tubes and sucking them into everything. But what Tony did was Andy would go, "Where's the money from the? Oh, the place got robbed last night and they stole all the stuff and this, that, and the other thing." So finally, Andy went like, "Okay, I see the light here." What he did was he put a little shingle outside his house that said "Star Tattoo Machines."
Oh, really?
Yeah, because Gene Bernardo at the time was going over there when he had Body Art World, and he was buying from him. And
really?
Andy didn't know how to set them up, so my friend Snooky, who was friends with Tony and also friends with Tony Lucas, and then I worked with him in the flea market. He passed away too. He was a nice guy. And anyway, he set them up for Andy where they buzz.
Sure.
And Andy was grateful for that. But Tony, another time when they used to have them on the boardwalk, that Coney Island thing in October, that yearly thing where they used to have tattooers get together even though it was illegal.
Right.
I don't know if you ever been to those shows.
No, not.
Yeah, it was a show something of the amusements. The guy's got a place on 12th Street now where he's got a girl with a snake and it's like a half freak show.
The sideshow.
The sideshow. That's what it was.
Yeah.
Well, him and Huggy Bear. I don't know if you ever heard of Huggy Bear from Brooklyn.
I remember Huggy Bear.
Okay.
Sure.
Huggy was what he was, okay? Well, anyhow, him and Tony go partners on hats that say Sideshow, Coney Island, whatever, right? And Tony had them where you didn't have to silk screen them. They were made and you just had to heat them and they went onto the hats.
Transfer shit.
Okay, right?
Yeah.
Now, Huggy's inside selling them for $10 a piece. And Tony's out on the boardwalk selling them for $5 a piece, cutting his own fucking throat.
Oh my God.
And then, when you went to see him, I went, "What happened with the hats?" He went, "You know what that fuck was doing?" I went, "What?" He goes, "He was selling them inside for $10. I go, "Yeah, so what's the point?" And he didn't split it with me. I go, "What are you?" He goes, I go, "And you were what, selling them outside for $5? He went, "Yeah, exactly." I go, "And you're fucking mad at him?"
You're mad at him. Yeah.
I went like, how the fuck does that make any sense?
Oh boy.
But anyhow, getting back to me and Carl.
God bless him, I'm alright.
Yeah, with that deal, then Freddie at the time, Coney Island Freddie, was tattooing, but he wasn't tattooing. He lived in Staten Island with this new one that he was with that he left his old lady for. And his mother-in-law lived 3 blocks. Her mother lived 3 blocks from where the tattoo shop was. So he got wind that we were over there. So he came one night when he dropped Stella off at her mother's. And he came over there. And he was bullshitting with us, you know. And he went, oh, you guys, you know. And I go, yeah. So, big-hearted me, I said, gee, the guy's an old-timer, this, that, and the other thing. I said, Carl, what do you think? Have him come in a couple of days a week, you know.
Right.
We'll give him fucking third of what we make for the day, you know. What the fuck?
Yeah, sure.
You know. So, sure enough, Freddie's got to be Freddie, where he's got to carry his fucking chair with him, his box with him. So this lasted for 2 weeks before what happened was to bust the storefront for an illegal activity, it has to be a phone call and a written letter by the concerned person that's what you're doing is what you're doing. And a captain of the precinct has to raid the store.
Really?
Yeah. So, now, after 2 weeks of him being there, on the night he wasn't there, the law is, in New York City, you could have all of this hanging up and have all of this, as soon as the needle hits the skin, then you're breaking the law. That's the law, except for if you were a doctor. That was the stipulation, as stupid as it was.
It was real stupid.
Okay, so what the captain did was, next door to us was a place that did catering, and they had all them plastic milk boxes. He fucking stood up on a milk box and through that little bit of the window that I left open, I was the first guy's back that you'd see from the window tattooing. So he observed me tattooing. So then a friend of mine, he was sitting in we had a recliner there, and he just like swung the door open. In walks this guy, a uniformed cop, and 6 narcotic cops with him.
All for tattooing.
So I'm sitting there tattooing. Meanwhile, we're selling Dr. Brown's soda. We're selling fucking cigarettes, also, because on the corner was a bodega, and it was all Puerto Rican, and it wasn't the most friendliest place you wanted to go, so we were keeping it in the place. So nobody said nothing about that. So now the captain's standing like right next to me, and I was doing an eagle with a snake, and I should have been on the yellow, where the yellow goes in the wing of the eagle, but at the time I said I want to put brown and then blend it in with the yellow. So if I wasn't doing that, I wouldn't have had the fucking machine to the skin. So he goes to me, you got to stop doing that. It's illegal. I go, no, it's not. It's a health violation. Just like that. Right? So he goes to me, put down the machine. So it was a Supreme. I put it down. And you too, Carl had to put down his machine. And he went, you know, this is, I says, no, it's a health violation. It's not an illegal act. All right. You guys leave. You got this, that, and the other thing. So they take us to the station, not handcuffed or anything. They took my machine that I was using and the acetate of the design. Okay? They put me in a taxi that the narcotics cop had, like a, you know, plainclothes car or whatever. And he went, we got a call on the radio that we were raiding a tattoo shop. He goes, I didn't even know, like, you know, what the fuck is on this guy's mind? I says to him, let me ask you something. What's with this guy? He goes, this fucking captain is a hard-on of hard-ons. He's been giving them people on 65th and Fort Hamilton for having their vegetables and their fruit too far onto the sidewalk a summons every day of the week, he goes.
What?
I go, so what are you saying? He goes, what I'm saying is I wouldn't stay here too much longer because he'll be back.
He's a jerk off.
So I says to him, okay, great. We get to the precinct. They write us a summons in a summons book, illegal activity, tattoo, and I think I still got a copy of it somewhere. So then they give us a date. You go to 646 Broadway, which is the same court for pissing on the subway, spitting on the subway, smoking on the subway. It's that kind of court. Go before the judge. Charges are tattooing illegally. How do you plead? Yeah, okay, you know, whatever. There was no lawyers and nothing. Guilty. And Mitch the cop came with us. So I said to him, so they said, $50 fine, pay the bailiff, whatever the fuck it was. We paid the $50, they stamped the fucking thing. So I go to, where's the property office? They took my machine and my thing.
Right.
They never gave me a voucher for it, which they're supposed to do when they take it and put it in their locker. So we go over to Brooklyn. I don't know if we drove, I don't know what it was. And we walk in there and we went, you know, we paid the summons, we want our property back. They went, where's the transcript of the trial? I went, yo, there was no trial.
Right.
This is what it was. So then George is standing behind him, he goes, look, flashes his badge, he goes, I'm on the job. He says, nobody gave them a voucher, which you know they should have did when they put it in their locker, and they paid their summons, so why don't you just give them back what you took from them, and we'll be on our way. So with that, the guy looked at him and went, you know, no problem.
Yeah,
so we got back the machine and the stencil.
They're trying to take your shit.
And that was the end of it. So from that, what we did was, we'd go there every night at like 6:30, 7 o'clock, and whoever wanted to go, Carl wind up, this is the greatest. On 13th Avenue and 76th Street, Carl lived there. On 76th and 12th Avenue, that's where Billy's mother's was and lived. He was there, and then on 78 and 13th, I was there. So you could walk to either one of us and who you wanted to go to. There was no love-hate amongst none of us. We gave a fuck. You know, so anyway,
so how many years did this go on for?
We did that for a while, you know. I mean, it got so, you know, so after we got busted and whatnot, more or less, I got Freddie fired back up again about tattooing in 76. And at the time, he was tattooing, he had this little house right by the water, Midland Beach it's called, which got really bad in that hurricane. I think all of them bungalows that were there got washed to shit off of Midland Avenue. And he set up a little thing right there, and he started going around and giving out cards and pushing his shit. And at that time, he was working for the New York Aquarium in Coney Island on one of them cedar programs as a carpenter for so many months. And then that ended, and then he had a battery from his brother's boat that he was using for power, and then I wound up with other powers. I wound up lending him my chrome power unit to use because he didn't have a fucking power unit. So with that, he used that, and you know, then we became friendlier too and whatnot. And then after that, I set up back in the house then. That was 76. Yeah, I think I went back to the living room somewhat, and then.
How do you end up in Stroudsburg? How does this occur?
That's because in '66, my mother and father bought a little bungalow where I live now in the Poconos from some woman that she worked with, that her husband went off his rocker, and she didn't need this place no more, so they got it for next to nothing at the time. And that's how we were there. So like, they still had that, and we'd go up on weekends and whatnot, and then they didn't actually move there till like 73 or 74, and then the people next to them, which were these two ladies from the college, one was the dean and one was the head of phys ed. They were both lovers, and that was they lived in East Stroudsburg, which is 10 miles away, but that was their getaway. It was the house that I bought, and the bungalow I bought, I should say. And that was the first one that was built, and then the guy...
So you had been going out there kind of vacationing a little bit?
Yeah. So I go and wind up building in the basement next to the boiler room, there was a space there that wasn't being used, but it was all...
Now, is this in Stroudsburg?
No, in Brooklyn. After I finished with Paul's thing and all of that. And this guy helped me make this little fucking shop downstairs, and I had these people going down steps that literally, like, how nobody fell down or sued you.
Like, more like a ladder than it was, yeah.
No, it was steps, but they were older than the fucking building. Okay. Then there was like a sink that dripped water, you know, it was like, you know, and there was no place for them to piss either, like, it was next to, like, where the fucking, right next to where the boiler was, there was like a steel plate that you lift that was a drainage for the oil from the boiler. You told me you gotta take a piss there. I throw bleach in it every now and then. But that only lasted till January, till August of '77. It was time, in other words, like, the kids were gonna start. One of them already went to kindergarten there, but the other one was 2 years, he didn't go yet, so I wanted to start the two of them in school over there. Not that there was anything wrong with where I lived, but... So, the place came about for the right number and all of that good shit, and so I took it. The only thing I did was, I went to a place where there wasn't any tattoo. In other words, all there was like, I was traveling all the way back to a guy that I met up at Big Joe's, because I used to go up there a lot and visit him, and I visited Zeke a lot too, and he was up there in '76. That's who did all of this. I used to hang there, you know, every other week, like, you know, because like, them guys were real cool, like, they knew who you were, and they knew you weren't trying to impress anybody, and ask them a million questions.
They were real tattooers,
yeah,
too,
they were good people, you know, and so I made this little place, and I had a fucking real good thing going. And then, like, it was time to shit or get off the pot, more or less, so, like, I went there, and then I was traveling all the way to fucking Islip, Long Island, which is like 150 miles to get to it. And what I do is I go there for 2 or 3 days, and I'd sleep by Pete's in Queens, which was a little bit like only 60 miles away or something.
Right.
One way, and I'd stay there with him, and we'd hang out and fucking bullshit and whatnot. But like, I was coming home with like $150 some weeks, you know, like dog shit money, you know.
Yeah,
and then finally, like, I seen a couple of guys in town, and they all had, it was the land of fucking jailhouse fucking, you know, pin job tattoos. And the first guy that I ever fucking tattooed, I said, hey, you know, looking to get that stuff fixed? They went, why, you tattoo? And he was like one of like the guys of the pack of that town, like their little group, like, you know. So from them, I brought him into my fucking, I still had my little tattoo desk, and I brought him in like, as soon as you come in the door, because it was a small little house, and I tattooed him right there, and then his friend got a tattoo also the same night. So I was getting a little something there, but it wasn't that much.
Right.
And then in '78 of January, finally after calling around here and there, I found this store on Lower Main Street, not too far from where I am now, next to where McDonald's is. And the guy would rent it to me for a tattoo shop, because at that time, most people heard that, they went, oh no, we don't want that here.
Yeah, I've got
you know,
that a lot.
That doesn't go with da-da-da-da. But now in every, what do you call it, strip mall,
yeah, I know.
all over this Pennsylvania, and by every strip mall that was like, you know.
There's towns with like fucking 1,000 people, and there's 5 tattoo shops.
Because, like Fi says, once this became an industry, then I guess the landlords looked at it like, what's wrong with renting it to a tattoo shop? Right. It's a reputable thing. It's on TV. It's on movie stars. It's on
I don't know. I mean, you know,
priests. I don't know. Like, you know, all of a sudden it was acceptable.
Yeah.
And they were paying $1,200, $800, $900. You know, like they're not stupid. You know, cheap money. So finally, I found this little place, and in fact, at the time, God rest her soul, my mother-in-law lent me $400 to open up the shop, because I didn't even have it, and I took a ride with my son in a Volkswagen, the old ones that had like, this one had next to no heat, with a blanket wrapped around our legs in the middle of January and drove to the bowling alley where she was bowling, so my father didn't know she had the fucking money.
Right.
And she lent me the $400.
So you're just getting cracking in Stroudsburg there.
Oh,
huh?
yes,
So,
I'm getting cracking in Stroudsburg.
So you're already at like the second location.
Right.
Now what gets you off to the little side street
what
location?
gets me, prior. Now,
You're talking about the one by McDonald's there, right?
yeah, the one by McDonald's in '78. Freddie comes up with this great scheme of a t-shirt place in the front in Brooklyn on Kings Highway, and in the back a tattoo shop.
Mm-hmm.
Gonna do this, we're gonna do that. Now, at this point, I was really I didn't go back to New York like almost for like so many months, and I was like almost, the month of November is a suck month, and I went, you know what? Yeah, maybe I should go there 3 days a week and work, and he'll work the other 2 days. So I went, yeah, so I wind up shutting that shop down and going on this get rich fucking scheme of Freddie's, God rest his soul, that it wound up being, the guy he was in with was a neighborhood wannabe, and you know, all of a sudden it was like, I'm friends with Allie, like, you're gonna do it for this much, I'm friends with this one, you're gonna do it for that much, and now I brought all my flash and hung it up in there, and I was getting 75%, which was fucking unheard of back then.
Absolutely.
You know, I mean, Zeke was the only one getting 75% when he went and worked somebody's place then.
Yeah.
But, so I'm there, and the month of December sucks no matter where you are, plus I'm sleeping like half by Pete's, half by somebody else that in that place, and it winds up that all of a sudden then Freddie and Allie have a falling out, and then all of a sudden, if there's any money, Allie's asking me for it, but then when I cross the bridge to go see Freddie, Freddie's going, where's the money from the shop? I go, whoa, wait a minute. I gave the money to Allie. Oh, fuck Allie, don't give him the money. Me and him, this, that, and the other thing. I went, whoa.
How the fuck are you supposed to
I said, this guy's like, you know, so then he comes up with, after all of this bullshit and not making any kind of fucking money, he goes and says to me, let me ask you a question. No, this went on, this went into, from December into January, and it was still nothing really, and then all of a sudden, he went, let me ask you something, if Allie decides to keep your stuff, what are you going to do about it? I said, let me tell you something. I never said I was a tough guy, I never came off like a tough guy, but nobody's fucking taking what's mine, I said, so he can fucking think whatever he wants, but
that happens one time,
he ain't getting
rest of
my
your career.
I said, so that's guaranteed. So what he does propose, it was more closer to around February like that, on the night that Allie bounced in this club in Queens that happened to be owned by Pete and Kubo's landlord that used to own their building, who was an old timer, and we wind up going there on a Friday and taking all my stuff out with Freddie's brother, Freddie's brother was Freddie's brother used to, he used to fucking go into Walmarts, he used to go into Wal-Bomb supermarkets like it was the old West and go, this is a holdup, and do fucking stick-ups. Yeah, he did 10 years, one straight, like he did a total of 26 years. But at this point he had gotten out, and I used to have a lot of laughs with him. Freddie was pretty straight and this, that, and everything, and me and Tommy used to always go back and forth with shit that, like, you know, Freddie would go, how can you just talk about a woman like that? You know, I go, fuck you, you know, this, that, and everything. But anyway, so with that, we went with Tommy, me, and Freddie to go get my stuff out of there.
Sure.
So the guy Tex, who was the front guy, he went to go on the phone and Tommy looked at him and went, I wouldn't make any phone calls if I was you. You know, so Tex went, okay, you know, and so we walked out of there. So then Freddie rented the bungalow next door to him for me to fucking, to set up his shop. So like and there was a back room to it where I would sleep for 3 days, so I wouldn't have to go back and forth to Pennsylvania.
Right.
Okay, back then names were $5, and he wanted to come in at night at 7 o'clock, but he wanted me to be there at 1 o'clock for like one guy to come for a name with 5 other guys to watch the guy get a name for $5.
Okay.
So that lasted like a few times hanging out. Then all of a sudden, Pete was across the bridge. I went, what do you feel like doing? He went, why? I went, fuck this. I said, I had enough of fucking hanging out doing nothing.
Right.
But then all of a sudden, a couple of times I got caught. Freddie went, what happened to you? You're supposed to open in the afternoon. I went, there's nobody comes here in the afternoon. He goes, there was guys here earlier, and I told them they had to come back at 7. See, Freddie had this thing from 4 in the afternoon till 7 at night was his dinner break. You couldn't get tattooed.
3-hour break?
This was his head.
Really?
Guys would go, I got money now. Oh, from 5 it was.
Yeah.
I got money now. Come back at 7 o'clock. That's all I could tell you. And they used to look at him, and I used to look at him and go, what the fuck?
Yeah, you don't turn out money.
So, from that, I used to eat with him, this, that, and the other thing. Then all of a sudden, it got to be where, you know, he started like nitpicking, like, I'd go in his house in the morning and have some orange juice, let's just say, and leave or whatever. And then, like, he threw up in my face something about, well, you know, the orange juice was finished, I didn't see you buying it. I was going like, how do you figure it was my job, like, to buy the orange juice? And then he started something about, like, I noticed your bed wasn't made, and I was going like,
hey,
what am I, in the fucking army?
Yeah, what the fuck is
you
that?
know, and then something was said about the fucking toilet, you know, being dirty and stuff. I was going myself, I ain't a janitor, like, you know.
Right.
And all of this here, so like, around August of that time, I said, you know, I think we should take a little break from each other. I said, because we're getting a little stupid here. So then when I came back, then there was no more eating dinner there. I'd go out and get something to fucking eat. And then it came November, it kind of like died. It was like $18 was made for that night. And I looked at him and went, you got a family, you know, and I got a family, like, this ain't working. Let's call it, you know, what it is, you know. It's your joint, and I'll go home. So I went home, and what I did was, at the time I was there, Dominic Chancey's sister lived on Staten Island, and his family lived there. His sisters, his brothers, this, that, and the other thing. And his brother Nick, who was a crazy old timer, was running Dom's shop, Ace Tattoo, in Jacksonville. Okay? He's the one that got Jacksonville open in '74.
That's North Carolina there.
North Carolina. They had it closed since '61, since Paul was up with there.
Sure.
He went to the courts, he went to this one, he went to that one. The guy that owned the biggest pawn shop down there, Lutz's Pawn Brokers, whatever, somehow Dominic always had a way of, Dominic was never a tattooer's tattooer. Dominic was a businessman's business, and like Eddie would say, would try and fuck you out of what you had coming to you. But that's another thing. But anyhow,
one of my first tattoo machines was from him.
Okay.
You know?
But anyway, he meets up with this guy, Lutz guy, and the guy's real name is Lutzicino, and he's from fucking Jersey, and he hears Dominic's fucking accent is, you know, you're Italian, I'm Italian, da-da-da-da. He goes, what are you doing here? He goes, I'm looking to rent, the store he wanted to rent, this guy Lutz owned the fucking store. It used to be a jewelry store.
Sure.
It was the biggest store on Cheney Avenue in Court, downtown. And as soon as they came off the bus and hit it, he had it neoned out where you couldn't miss this joint. But Eddie had one right across from it, but that's because Dominic fucked Eddie, so Eddie went around. Well, anyway.
Sure.
So
there's so many rabbit holes
right.
that you could go, because you know there's so many characters at the time. You know what I mean?
So what?
And this guy's with this guy, and this guy's with the other
right.
guy,
They
and he's
kept
fucking
jumping
this guy. And,
ships.
yeah,
They kept
exactly.
jumping
So there's all
ships.
kinds of shit going on.
So what happens is, I opened up a small little place in my sister-in-law's basement in Brooklyn because there was a few people that I made contact with that I could tattoo, and I wound up tattooing the guy that was going to make the phone call to the guy when we were taking my stuff out.
Yeah.
He, you know, he liked me. He was friends, and I did this tiger and snake on his back. Pete had redrawn it where it looked decent, and I put it on and bullshit, this, that, and the other thing. So I made some money off of that. And then all of a sudden, Dominic's brother Nick went into a pizza joint, and Dominic was always seeking out guys to work the shop. He was one of the first guys to put an ad in Easy Rider for tattoo artists.
Huh.
And a box number or whatever,
Yeah.
So anyway, so Nick sees something that I did, a rose with a fucking stem on a guy in the pizzeria, and he asked the guy, who did that? So he said, Ronnie did it at Freddie's shop on Mapleton Avenue, blah, blah, blah. So I don't know if Freddie gave him my sister-in-law's, I had a phone put in down there, that's right, under my name. And somehow this guy's calling me and telling me, hey, I seen a piece you did, I'm in Jacksonville, blah, blah, blah. Oh, no, wait, I'm fucking up. Getting back to how Dominic got it open. Speaking to the guy from the pawn shop, the guy from the pawn shop says to him, so his brother says, go see so-and-so, and he'll get you.
He'll get you squared away.
He'll get you squared away. Mm-hmm. Within a half an hour, he got squared away. And he got it open. But the only problem with him was, he wasn't a tattooer. Right. So, the idiots that he put in there weren't doing the thing, so Eddie's side of the story is that him and Jack College happened to stumble into town, and Dominic said, you guys got to do it because these other guys are idiots, and that's how that got motivated. Right. But the guy from the check cashing place, and they used to have phone booths lined up like in the whole place where they cash your check, and they had pinball machines and all of that shit, and give you rolls of quarters for the phone. The guy says to me, when they first opened that shop, there was a line from my store literally all the way to there, and that was open almost 24 hours a day. It was the only one. But naturally, Dominic being Dominic, you know, then he tried to screw Eddie out of money and whatnot, and everything like that. And then he got on the wire, and up until then, he kept on, he heard about Zeke, and Zeke being a military tattooer. So then Zeke was up at Joe's in '77, and I think that's first when a group of motorcycle went up to Joe's to True, I should say, Tom DeVita on the East Village. Really? Because Tom knew what they were, right. And he said, I'm not your kind of tattooer. Big Joe's a biker. He's the guy you should see in Mount Vernon. Yeah. So Joe inherited the 3rd Street crew. And all of a sudden then there was like, you know, one night Zeke was up at the window because Joe had an apartment on top of the place that he owned. Joe always had a fucking enterprises going on. And Joe was like the mayor. It was all black around there by Mount Vernon. Right. But their mothers, the black mothers used to come and say, Mr. Joe, can you help my boy? He's not doing the right. Time to come over. I fucking talked to the kid. I straightened him out. Joe was the coolest dude. You know, I mean, he was dynamite. He was like your uncle, like, you know.
Yeah, sure.
There was no qualms. He was this, he was that. He was a fucking cool guy. And anyhow, so McGiller and supposedly Zeke were up there with shotguns because they heard another fucking rivalry thing was going to happen. So I think he more or less got to the point where Dominic was calling there, And then finally, like Zeke said, fuck this, like, you know,
Right.
I'm out of here. Like Joe's has gotten like out of hand with what's going on.
Yeah.
So
that's the end of that.
he split down there and got his 75% and was working the shop back in 78 like that. But what happened was Dominic got away from it and stuck his brother Nicky in it, who Nicky was nothing more in his life but a laborer on a construction site and an alky to fucking boot.
Oh, good.
So, you know, and he was a closet drinking guy, you know, like, so anyhow, I wind up going over to meet this crazy man in Staten Island, right? And he's telling me, I saw you work, this, that, and that. Now it's 1980 at this point. And I got nothing, no shop going on or anything. Just out of the house sometimes on a Saturday and Sunday through people I knew was cool. So I go and talk to him and he goes, you know, you tattooed the Marines, 40%. I went to the guy, at the time I was only tattooing 10 years. I says to him like, I don't go no place for 40%, my friend.
Right.
I went 50%. But you don't understand. You do a
volume. 40, I get 60, but
do a volume business. I go, yo, you know, you moved down. I go, whoa. I got family. I got a house. I got kids in school. I got a mother and father next time. I just can't pick up and move to Jacksonville, I said. You know, you want me to do paydays? I said, I'll do paydays every other month and stay for 2 weeks or whatever, right? Yeah. So he came to the conclusion where he agreed to the 50% finally. So I go over to talk to Freddie to ask him what his insight is on this. Like, what do you think? He goes, well, now, if you figure on the drive you got to drive and the gas you got to spend and how much you're going to make on this end, and I'm going myself, what the fuck did I even bother stopping it for?
Yeah, right.
Talk about bringing you down, like, right? So I went like, you know, he goes, I come up, see what he used to do is on the 15th and the 30th they got paid. In between paydays, he'd shoot back up to Staten Island to be, I don't know if his mother was still alive then, or she was dying or some shit, but his wife was in Jersey, blah, 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 and then he'd shoot back and all of this kind of shit. So now in February of 80, I missed the ride back with him for the 15th, so I wind up at the end of the month to get down there. Don't ask me how, I didn't have a car to drive. I wind up making my wife drop me off at the bus station in Stroudsburg to go to Port Authority to get on a fucking Greyhound, 12 hours to go to Jacksonville. Now, since it was snowing when I left, my bus was delayed, so when I got to fucking Port Authority, here I am with, like he said, you better bring stuff to repair your things and this, that, because nobody's got nothing here, nobody's going to help you. I went like, okay, so now I'm carrying this cheap bag that I bought that the handle broke now.
Oh, great.
So now I'm like on the bus like a jerk. And I get to Port Authority, my bus had left the express. So I go, what am I going to do? They go over to Mart's. So I go over to Mart's, I go, it's midnight. I go, you got anything going to Jacksonville? They go, yeah, there's a stopover in Norfolk. I went, what the fuck am I going to do? I got to get on this fucking bus. Get on the bus, I'm fucking eating. As we're on the bus, we're going through the Jersey Turnpike. Before you get to Delaware to pay the toll, it's a fucking sheet of ice on this bus. Now I'm smoking fucking Marlboros like a maniac, eating Rolaids, and going like, what the fuck am I in for?
Yeah.
Right? Sitting all the way in the back of the bus going like, then finally like, I finally fall out, it's 5 in the morning, they wake up in Norfolk, they gotta refuel the bus, everybody's gotta get off. I was like, are you fucking kidding me? So now I'm carrying this broken satchel, put the fuck in my bag. I get there at 12 noon, and I meet this crazy fuck at the bus station. We're in a fucking restaurant. Over there's no diners. There's either Virginia ham steaks, fried chicken, New York strip steak, and one other fucking fish thing, I think. That's the fucking menu, like, you know, like, it was, so he starts right away with the bread, ain't Italian bread, see these rolls, they'll kill you, so he's bitching about, so here's this grumpy old fuck, and I'm going like, what the fuck?
Right, so
And
now
then,
you gotta be there fucking tattooing with this asshole.
but then he gets me a room in the oldest fucking hotel on Cheney Avenue that was there when Paul Rogers was there in '56. It was the same fucking place. He pays for me for a room to stay there because it was right next to the shop. So finally that night, it's a payday night, right? I'm in there, I get fucking my shit together and everything. All of a sudden, it's me and some fucking farmer guy that, I don't know where he found this fucking guy that lived 40 miles away.
Right.
At 9 o'clock, he gets a bug up his ass, because now he's fucking drunk, and he closes the fucking shop on us. He goes, that's it, we're out of here. I go, what the fuck you mean? I go, what am I going to do with my... fucking leave my tattoo stuff in there. I take my fucking... I go to my... So I hop in his car, and at that time there was only 4 shops in downtown, and there was one out, Saigon Sam's, out on 17, which the guy's real name was Pete, and was a friend of Huck's from like way back when.
Right.
Who probably ran the town according to Eddie.
Sure.
You know? But anyway,
So how long do you spend in this town?
right. So I get, finally, I ride with this guy, we go visit this guy from Connecticut or something, and he's working in this shop that has, one side of it is all surplus fucking marine gear, and there's a tattoo shop adjacent to the fucking thing. And he don't know that much about tattooing, and he wants to be my buddy and all this fucking bullshit. So from there, anyway, I wind up back, I get in this fucking motel room, and now I'm like fucking famished, bushed, fucking headache, fucking pounding, and I go like to pull up the fucking, there ain't only roaches in this fucking place, there's bed bugs.
Yeah,
And I'd never fucking seen bed bugs in my fucking life.
Yeah.
And I'm going like, what the fuck am I gonna do? So now there's an armchair over there that I don't think was upholstered or anything. So I fucking wind up like sitting in the chair like I'm sitting now, fucking smoking cigarettes and like fucking, you know, trying to fucking. So the next day comes.
Yeah, we've been on the next
was
bus
Saturday.
out of that fucking place. Yeah.
And he comes over to get me. Yeah. And fucking apologizes from here to Kingdom Come. You know, my mom died, and my dog died, and my nephew, my grandson's, you know, like, and he lays all of this heavy shit on me. And I go to him, yeah, and that place you stuck me in, I said, is a fucking horror show, this, that, and the other thing. So Indians had it. So he said, I'm going to go over there. I don't know if he went and got his money back. No, Nick, he might have.
Right.
So he went, all right. So now that day was a busy day, and the other guy didn't wind up showing up. So I ate that whole fucking day.
Right.
Okay? That day, he says to me, you're coming home with me. He had an apartment behind the motel, like an efficiency.
Right.
So I go back with him, back to his place, and he's cooking sausage at fucking 2 o'clock in the morning and all this shit, you know. I'm like, fucking great, you know. But he wasn't drunk at that point, this, that, and the other thing. So that Sunday, for some reason, which is unbelievable, it snowed. About a foot of fucking snow in Jacksonville.
Jeez.
It was like, and he had a big 78 brand new fucking Mercury Marquis in that gray color with snows on. He was the only one that had fucking snow tires. So we fucking drove there, and he was the only one that had a shovel, so he shoveled a path to the whole front of the place, and he used to say, we open on Sundays, he said, when they come out of the motel, nobody's open, they have nothing to do, he says, they'll come to the shop.
Of course.
So at that time, Pete had gotten into going to prayer meetings and the Lord and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
So I was kind of like going to church. So I said to Nick, I'm going to go to the 12 o'clock mass and then I'll be back at 1 o'clock. He said, I got no problem with that. So he shoveled out the front and everything, and I came back. There was a group of guys there. They had a pool table, they had a jukebox, they had 2 pinball machines. We were selling them wine in little styrofoam cups for like $3 a fucking hit out of the fucking thing. Plus we wind up with driving like 7 of them back to, not to Camp Lejeune, but the other one where they train you to be.
Paris Island?
No. Paris Island is in South Carolina.
Right.
The other one is where they teach you how to be a grunt.
Right.
That was
infantry.
Yeah, it's infantry grunt school out on 17. And we charged them $3 a fucking head to drive them back there. And then we went to go eat or some shit or something. So I after that I hung with him.
So how long were you there for?
I was there for, I did stay for like the payday till, I think maybe a week or two, at least.
So then where are you off to after this?
I went back to Pennsylvania.
And that was it, huh?
No, I went back
Or
there.
were you going back there for military paydays?
And then that was February into March. Then I didn't
See,
go.
I don't think like most people that are listening to this, they don't understand the military payday thing. They don't understand like the fucking line out the door.
Oh yeah.
Where you're just fucking cranking.
It was one after the other.
And it's all, they're cool tattoos and shit, but at that point it's fucking work.
But not
You know what I
only
mean?
that, this man, when he was not drinking, this guy was so much on the money. In other words, as they came in the door, he greeted them with, "You come to the biggest, the cleanest, and the first tattoo shop in the area. Our ink is a world trade secret of what we use." Da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-dum. He like laid out shit.
It's like a carnival barker, you know?
Right.
I mean, yeah.
And the Southerners, not for nothing, they never been off the farm.
Sure.
They bought right into it. What we were getting $40 at home for, I was getting $95 by him and getting 50. It was like
Right.
found. And I used to
Yeah,
look at
found
him
dough.
and I used to laugh. He used to go, "What the fuck are you laughing at?" I go, "You fucking kidding me?" He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "And when you cut an acetate, even though the design is small, put it on a big sheet." He goes, "You see how big this is?" He used to go to him, you know, shit like that. And then when the guys used to come like from Brooklyn or Bronx, right? And he used to go, that one there, that's $90, a fucking bulldog head or whatever, USMC. And he used to go, "Hey, what are you fucking crazy? How you think I'm gonna?" He go, "Where you from?" They go, some of them were from Philly, from Conshohocken. And he go, "Conshohocken, or for 30, his cousin came from Philly. So he used to hang there sometimes. So right away then what he'd do is go, he'd fucking make them his friend like.
Of course.
And he fucking milk them and he'd go to them, "You guys are in a group? I can give you a group rate then." He goes, "I didn't know that when you first came in cold." So we got them to spend money in a way that they weren't accustomed. The same thing if they came from Brooklyn.
Sure.
He'd say, "Where?"
You get all the familiarities and I know a guy there.
Yeah. So then that's
he's your best pal.
Right.
And you don't mind giving him all your money.
No. So then I went back home in '80, and what the fuck? I just did. I think I did some shit by Pete's then. Pete says, "You want to come down here a couple of days a week since you ain't got nothing going on in your own joint?" I went, "Yeah." I told my old lady, my fucking old lady, God bless her. I mean, she was a woman like, I just said shit and she just like looked at me like, "Where you going?" And I go, "I'm gonna go help Pete, you know. There ain't no money here, like you ain't working right now. You know, this, that, and the other thing." And then she did get a job with her. You know, I said to the kids, and she said, "Yeah, you gotta do what you gotta do."
So you're in Stroudsburg now.
Right.
And you don't have the shop yet that you have now.
No.
And you're going back and forth kind of between Pete's and then military paydays and things like such as this.
Right.
So when does it occur to you to open up the shop there?
All right. So now,
Because there's nobody tattooing there really.
No,
right?
there was nobody.
Nothing.
There was no shops.
It's basically like, it's busy in the summer because it's
I already
Poconos,
had the shop in '78 and then let it go, and then nobody tried to open a place. And then in '80, after doing Jacksonville and all that jazz, what the hell time of the year was that?
You're very detail oriented, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I'm trying to. Yeah, from November of '80, I opened up with them people that were so-called friends of mine that were ex-methadone people, and I took the
So
front row.
how long would you say, about 6 weeks or so?
No, I was with that place from '80 till March of '84.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
And that was right by the mall where you figure like, can't miss this.
Yeah.
And all you got mainly was people that dropped their wives off at the mall and then came and wanted to talk shit about tattoos, but nobody sat down to really get anything.
Nobody ever got a tattoo.
Yeah, I mean, there were some diehards that did come and get tattooed, but it wasn't what I thought it would be. But then in '84, this guy bought up this property where the house was and was going to tear it down. Now also the people that I was giving my end to, she wasn't giving her end to the people that owned the property.
Oh, really?
So I went to the place, it was an accounting service, and I says to him, yo, I want you to know one thing, don't hold me liable for what she's not giving you, I said, because I give, you know,
Yeah.
my amount, I said,
sure.
whether you're getting it or not, I said, I don't want that, you know. No, we understand. If you want, you can give us the, well, I don't know if I wound up giving him the money, but anyhow, I had to get out of there. So then I searched, and the store that's in front of where I am in the alley now was empty. But at that time, upstairs, well, still, her son, who's a lawyer, her husband was a lawyer, and when I called for the store, Dolores was her name. She's out in San Diego. The husband's dead. Barry's still alive. He owns the building now. And she says, oh, well, we're not really looking. You know, we have a law office upstairs, and we're not really looking to rent, you know, blah, blah, blah. So then 2 blocks over on 9th Street, there was this little small place that they had just redid like this old little house, and they made a downstairs and an upstairs, and it was, you know, it was a nice little place for like $150, $160 a month. I forget what it was.
Cheap as shit.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. So with that, I was over there, and then that was almost where you'd stop for a stoplight, so it was always seen. And then I put out a sign, and then the township made me take, like, it was an upright sign, like the one I stick in the alley.
Yeah, of course.
Which got stolen later on, but anyway.
Sandwich food there.
Yeah, you know, and I stayed there, and then this hard-on ex-detective from the city bought the place, and he came on like, you know, fucking gangbusters.
Breaking your fucking balls.
He put his real estate business upstairs, and then all of a sudden, like, he jacked my rent to $200 like in January right away.
Yeah, you can't.
You know, and I went to him like, yo,
in the middle of fucking
what are you
slow
doing?
season,
I said, this is the worst time of the year to do this. You know, give me a fucking break. Like, well, that's what it is, it's $200. So then, after a while, that was, then he wanted me, it was 84 going into 80, I was only there from 84 March till I moved into the alley November 5th, 1985. And at the time, when I called the number and they answered Cohen and Cohen, I says to the secretary, I said, I already called, I said, and he wouldn't, she says, who is this? I said, she was very nice, this lady. I said, this is Ronnie from Ronnie's Tattooing. She goes, just hang on. She says, let me get Dolores, which was the mother. And she got on the phone, and what happened was, see, that store is adjacent to the other offices in the back. That place is cut like in pieces.
Listen to me. This is what I want. I want to know how you remember every fucking detail.
All right, wait.
Okay, how does this happen?
Because you want to know the truth?
It's like a steel trap.
I'm going to tell you something that...
And your body's just the bear meat hanging off.
Yes, it is. I'm going to tell you something that I once said in front of my wife to 2 Puerto Rican guys that were looking at a Christ that on the wall that Mikey drew that was $160. and they were telling me, no, you told me $130. I said, so let me explain something to you. I didn't do a lot of drugs when I was young. I said, I'm waiting till I'm old and I'm fucking dribbling, and that's when I'm going to be banged out of my mind. And my old lady just looked at me and went, well, you were fucking crazy. And with that, them two walked out the fucking door. But anyway, what happened was an accountant had rented all of them offices that came to mind also.
Okay.
But his partner backed out at the end. So she was stuck with that little room that I got that's 15 by 16.
Yeah.
All right? And before that, there was a...
But that's such a cool little shop you're in there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, it's just... It's perfect it's perfect for you. Like, you know, just boom, there's Ronnie right there, and then...
Well, and I used to have Freddie over there, but the only thing with that was his chair and then the guy's chair that I was tattooing were kind of like back to back. But you could do it, but, you know... But it was tight. So what happened was she says to me, do you want to come down and look at, I have a store on the side. And I was like, where? I was like, oh man, it's in the alley. And my daughter came in '84, and this was '85, and she was still like into diapers. And like, I remember going, like my old lady told me I had like fucking $16 in my pocket. And I was like, I had told Pete, I went, I don't believe how fucking broke I am. I said, and I got to spend that to buy the kid diapers, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he went, yeah, that sucks. I went, yeah, no shit. So then they showed me the place and everything, and she says, you know, what do you think? So now the guy had the whole place painted. He had an indoor-outdoor rug put in it that was new. So she says to me, look, you could do what you want, she goes, but it would be kind of a nice gesture if you know, like gave him something towards the painting and the rug. I'm not saying that you have to, but so I went, you know, what are you talking like? So I wound up like giving the guy $200, but I gave him like $25 a month for the next many things, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And he was a cool guy, and he wound up being my accountant for 33 years maybe he just retired and hooked me up with another guy. But anyway, so I move in there, and then I had a counter that me and my friend Alan made that I showed how to tattoo a little bit before that, which then opened in Allentown, and now he's out of it. But anyway, so we made a counter, this, that, and the other. But in the meantime, I started tattooing this guy that was a cabinet maker, and I was tattooing the guy for making me, he made me that bench.
Yeah.
You know, and then the petition that I made, I told him to make it because there was no closets, that everything I wanted to fit into something.
Yeah.
So I told him what pockets I wanted where and when, and he laid out the whole thing 10 feet long and 18 inches, you know, so it wouldn't take up that much room. And then I had a shit desk stand, and he made me that, so I think
the cool thing about your place is like it's like a real tattoo joint. It's not. It's like the stations are built.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not. It's not like new shops now. Like now, you know, you have an empty space. You just throw these fucking these toolboxes there, and then bang bang boom, you're fucking ready to go.
Business.
But yeah, I mean, like the first few shops that I opened. And you had nice fucking stations with a sink and the whole fucking deal. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
I mean, once it was there, it was there. You know?
Definitely.
So, but now it's not.
Well, I always saw that, you know, people that had tattoo studios and that the ones that gave a shit had cabinets made, and they had, so in my head I always wanted something that was better, you know.
Yeah.
And plus I had this
guy.
It
has to be the perfect, like so many inches.
Yeah, 26 inches high, Zeke said, so you ain't reaching for nothing.
And you know what, I never knew that until like me and Sonny were building the first Cadillac. Because the shop I had before that, I was working, it was left-handed and the counter was up here, so I'm like this.
Yeah, right.
Working like this, and then, so we get there, so I was like, look man, it's 26 inches, this is that, like all the slats in the walls, you know, with the frames. I mean, it was such a good learning experience to build a shop with someone who knew what the fuck he was doing.
Oh, definitely.
You know? It's an experience. And then you got that kind of information.
Yeah, that's what I saw. You know, I mean, they all had frames, but Tony used to always make them like I did, with the acetate on them, and then the black tape around them, with the cardboard to mount them with, you know, and then slide them. Then those runners I got were supposed to go in between, like Formica when you joint them.
Exactly.
That's all they were, but in black. So I was like, went to the lumber yard, figured it out, you know. Some of them I used liquid nails.
You see the way this looks in here? I mean, it's slick.
Oh, it's cool as shit.
You know,
you can't beat this.
You know, and then
but the sad part of it is it became decorative wallpaper. Because they just walk and come up to you and stick a phone in your face and, how much is this? And you go like, I go to them warmly, like, I put on my glasses, I go, for one, I can hardly see it. For two, it's on somebody else and it ain't done so great. So like, I don't know what you want me to tell you. Well, how much is it? I go, unless you give it to me on a piece of paper and it's, well, can I download it and send it to your email? And then I go, and I just look at them, and I told this to what's his name, and Mark Mahoney, when I was in California a few years ago. I said, I'm lucky I got a shop. You want me to have a computer too? And Mark laughed his fucking ass off. He goes, that's the best fucking thing I ever heard. I said, well, it's the truth. You know what I mean? I got a space. But anyway, you know, I appreciate what this looks like. You know, you can't beat the look of it. You know what I'm saying?
No, you can't. It's a
you know, and then I started having them laminated instead of having, because I used to have smoking in there and everything was so yellow that it got crazy. Then I stopped the smoking. Then I had a good friend of mine that I was tattooing also that became friends with me, that painted the joint for me, you know, and I tattooed him. It's just like the guy with the cabinets. You know what I did on his back? The pinky and flying lion.
Oh, really?
From the black and that set he came out with.
Yeah,
that's what I did on his back.
Great fucking design.
That's what I did on his back. I think for my tattoo.
You have pictures of this stuff that you did?
No, that I don't. I didn't really like shutterbug the shit out of that shit. Right. Later on, I did take a lot of pictures of stuff.
Well, good. You'll be sending me pictures. Well, we want to put. You know, like you're talking tattoo and this and that, so we'll add it to the interview. You know what I mean? So anyway, you're in Stroudsburg here. You got your shit set up finally.
Yeah. And there's nobody. And at the time, back then, there was nobody in a 50-mile radius. In other words, there was Peter Eagle was in Allentown. Eddie was in Philly. Tony the Pirate was in South Jersey. You know, Eddie was in Camden. You know, like it was all spread out. There was nobody around, and I used to ask these guys, like, they drive 50 miles, like, to come to see me, and they bring 3 or 4 guys with them and shit. And I used to like,
I
used to go like,
I mean, that's how it used to be. We had people that used to fly
word of mouth. You know, and I go to them like, you know, who drove, you know. They go, why? I go, well, let me give you $10 back for gas, you know, like, no, we don't want your money, no, that's okay, you know, we appreciate coming here. I was like, oh, great, you know, and then I got a run of like, in 86, like that, I got a run of, when the skinhead thing was out, but not the neo-Nazi skinhead, the regular skinheads, they were coming all the way from Allentown because Peter Eagle didn't want them in his shop. Because, well, Peter Eagle, he's a Jew.
Yeah.
Period.
Okay.
And he felt that they were.
He thought they were the Nazis.
Yeah. So he didn't want it, and he was a nasty fuck anyhow.
Right.
God rest his soul. But anyway, plus he was a hard on too.
See, that gives you that's what it is. That gives you permission to talk shit on someone dead. Yeah. You can just say, God rest his soul, and then you fucking just talk shit.
Because it's the truth.
You know what I mean?
You know, I mean.
But I always like that term, you know, when people say, well, you know, God rest his soul, you know.
But, you know, he learned off of Jack College because Jack College married his ex-wife. And at the time, he was out of work, so Jack says, Jack was into a thing about, Jack College turned Captain Jack, they used to call him. He turned Peter Eagle on. He turned, what's his name on, from Manville, Chris the Greek. Jeez. He turned on that other Ernie White. He was on a thing, at one time, when Eddie came out with his catalog, when Eddie had $30 for a quarter black, he'd cross it out and write 50 next to it. And it was the same, it was Eddie's catalog.
Really?
And we giving them out, because I seen a guy and I went like, he upped everybody's thing that was there.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So he put him in business, and them guys wouldn't go to him, you know. So all of a sudden, like, I'd pull up at 2 o'clock and they'd be like, where that apartment building is, there'd be like 6 of them waiting there. And they'd all get black and gray. At the time, I never put up that Pinky Hand stuff, or what's his name that got killed by the bus there?
Greg Irons.
Greg Irons. I never put that shit up in color. I always put it up in black the way it was.
Yeah, sure.
And they used to bite into both of them things like crazy. The Reaper, the thing, and then they brought me the Crucified Skin to do.
Yeah,
and I cut an acetate of that. In fact, I wound up giving it to Timmy because he went to me, you're full of shit, you got an acetate. I said, I'm full of shit. I said, next time I come, I said, I just found it under something. I said, I'm going to give it to you. You're going to give it? I says, yeah, it's a gift. So he's got it like behind something. And anyway, and I had a nice following with that. And then I did okay. And then into the 90s, then it really like, it progressed and it took off. Then a few guys opened like 3 or 4 miles away, but they were nothing to be considered of anything, you know? And then at the time, prior to that, Freddie had left Staten Island, was promised with this contractor to build so many condominiums in Jersey. So he sells his house in Staten Island, he moves to Jersey, and the fucking deal falls through, and now he's on the balls of his ass. Now a friend of mine in Howell, New Jersey opens up in a flea market. My friend Snooky, who also passed away. He used to work I used to work with him on Sundays in the flea market in Watchung, New Jersey, in 86 to like 89 or 90. But anyway, so with that, they said, Freddie stopped in the flea market, the kid that worked with me. I said, oh, tell him Ronnie says hello. I hadn't spoken to him like in 3 or 4 years. So then he started communicating. I said, what are you doing? He goes, nothing. I go, so once again, nice me. Like Pete said, this is the second time you opened up your fucking hole for him. I said, why don't you come up here 3 days a week? I'll share what I got, which I'll give you 60%. I said, the one thing I'm telling you, you know, like, don't look to open on me if you come here, like, you know what I'm saying? So I'd have him come Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. So he was real rusty at first, then he got a little more comfortable, and then he was all right, and then he was making some money a week. So then he winds up selling his house in Jersey, luckily, and he moves his family up on top of a hill, which you needed like a Land Rover to climb this thing in the winter instead of a fucking Pontiac station wagon that he had 2 of them that were worth the shit that he had to walk up a fucking mile hill to get to his house. But hence, you know, that's what he wanted, that's what he got. But, you know, and then from there, it was doing good, and then by the flea market on 209, there was like nobody had opened like right there, and this thing got like heavy bumper to bumper traffic, especially on the weekend. And I found this little place for like $300 a month that was like, it was behind another, there was a hairdresser or something in front, and then there was a side door behind it, but I was able to, he had a thing where you could put a sign like in a slot, so they'd see it. And then Freddie built me like an A-frame thing that I could put outside that I use for the fair now. But anyway, so I says to him, I set that place up. I had copies of, I put up all the shit, and I set up the thing where it was a small area, maybe up to that box there, to the window, and I put it to the back where the fluorescent was. Next time I go there, he's got the bench where it's almost out there, where it looks like in 10 minutes you can fucking take the thing apart and walk out the door with it, buddy.
Right.
You know? So I go, what's that about? He goes, well, I wanted to be by the window where I could see out the window. I'm like, then he went from like, I'll come in 7 days a week. Next thing I know, Wednesday and Thursday he's closing. I'm going like, what's up? He goes, well, you know, And then like, he's supposed to be open till 8. There was nothing doing, so I left at 7 o'clock to go home. I went, why? Was there going to be any business at home? He goes, yeah, but I was hanging out there doing nothing. And not one person, and not 100 people, but maybe 10 out of 100 said to me, I know the place was yours, I went to stop there, but it was closed.
Right.
You know, so now
So
I wind up...
He's costing you fucking money.
Right, but I wound up, I opened it in August. That fucking month, I got off the nut that it cost me to open the place. Not that I ever told him that,
Right.
to this day. Right? So, I wind up, came November, December. By January, I was out of there for fucking New Year's Eve. Right? And then where he had his chair, he made a fucking rip in the rug, and the fucking guy that owned the place was like of German descent or something, and he went, well, you want your deposit back? What about that? It's going to cost us that. I went, what are you telling me now? Come on.
Yeah.
You know, what do you want? Like, you're going to keep the whole tree, you know?
Yeah.
Well, what if what? Let's talk an amount. You want $50? Give me back the two and give me, you know, whatever, $250. So I forget what it was. And I walked out of there, and, you know, then after that, he went, what the fuck did he wound up going back. He didn't come back with me to the shop.
I know that. There, you know what I mean?
I know that. Oh, he started talking to Todd in Staten Island about some guy that they knew, Uncle Vinny or some shit, was looking for a couple of guys to work in a bootleg joint on Highland Boulevard. And but by that time, we're almost into like 96. His wife he was staying with his brother Tommy, and his wife got lung cancer really bad, and she only lasted 6 months, you know. But at the time, he opened up a little shop with Todd on Amboy Road. In fact, Mark Lawson's in the same building that Freddie had the shop upstairs with Todd,
really?
but downstairs.
Really?
Yeah, he had told me that because he lives in Staten Island. And anyway, so that's where he wound up from there, and then he hung around a little bit, and then in '98, Huggy Bear was in Cape Coral, and he had an ass-kicking business over there because Huggy could bullshit the balls off a brass monkey.
Right.
And he pierced and whatnot. I mean, he wasn't much of a tattooer, but he could talk some shit, you know?
Yeah.
And he invited him to come down there, and Freddie was making money. But by that time, Freddie had emphysema. He had stopped smoking around the time when his wife passed away, but his fucking lungs were already fucking done.
Right.
So he was struggling along, and then I went and visited him one year, and then he came up in '97 and he did the fair with me. But he was like, you know, out of breath, like walking from the car, like every 10 steps you had to stop, and he was getting really bad. And how I fell into the fair thing was, in 1983, I've been there.
Yeah, that trailer's awesome, man.
This will be my 36th year there.
Jesus Christ.
Now, how I fell into that, there was this guy, Dan, that was tattooing out of his house and driving a cab during the day, who I started tattooing the shit out of him, and he was a squirmy type of guy, and he had the spot. So like, I'm going like, why the last week of August, like nobody comes through my door? And then they said, oh, the West End Fair's on. It's the only fair in Monroe County.
Right.
So I went out there, and he's tattooing out of remember the old mini Volkswagen buses that turned into a camper?
Yeah, of course.
That's what he was tattooing
Really?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah. And anyway, so I went to see him in '82, I think it was. And I kind of, the look I gave him and the way something or the other, he came to me and said to me, I don't want to step on your toes. I don't want no problems with you. I didn't fucking threaten the guy or anything. I just like looked at him and went like, oh, this is where you are. I said, that's nice. I said, you know, you didn't even let me know, like, you know, that kind of tone like that. And he went like, no, Ronnie, you know, me and you were friends. I went, well, you know, friends, you know.
Not that good of friends.
Yeah, you know. So then the next thing I knew, he went, here's the contract. So I didn't get the spot where he is. There was another tattooer right across from where the stadium was, where they have the demolition derby and they used to have country and western. I wound up getting that guy's fucking spot, which was better because his was around the bend of it. You had to look for him. So I got that. I was right out in the open. And I wound up getting this old pop-up trailer that only went up so high, but it had a frame and wheels. Then I had this other friend of mine that was a carpenter, and out of that, we made this little one-seater, little fucking... It was almost like Max... Freddie used to say it was like Max Peltz's stand in Coney Island. You could fit 3 garbage cans in it.
Wow.
And that's what it was. And then the awning opened up, and then I had all the flash in 8.5 by 11s that I painted.
Yeah, those sheets are great.
Right? And I had all of them up where you could see them, and I had a fan on me, and I was... At that time, all the small surrounding towns didn't have a tattoo shop.
Right.
So just the idea of going to the fair and spending at the time $20 back then for a little trinket, you would do it one after the other after the other.
Sure.
You know, and then it got to the point where it was like, forget it, you know, like I was there sometimes till 2, 3 in the morning smoking and, tattooing.
That's amazing.
And the constables that used to, after the sheriffs go home at 11 o'clock, the constables secure the areas. They'd come over and go, when are you going to get done? You know, everything is closed. I go to them, you want to tell these 4 people that are waiting that I can't do them?
Yeah.
They've been waiting 6 hours, I said.
Yeah.
I said, besides, it's contained. Everybody's right here. Nobody's wandering the fairgrounds.
Yeah.
And I said, all right, do what you got to do, you know, so like that, like this. But once again, that, over time, everybody opened in every other little town, that, and the other thing. And going back now, like 5 years, it's dropped off to a point now where...
Is it still worth doing it or what?
Well, I'm going to say it is and it ain't. I had one year when I asked Tony Lucas to come up from Florida or whatever. Oh, he was working for Bill Clayton in Fayetteville.
Oh, yeah.
And also I'd go down there because my daughter was stationed with her first husband there, and Bill gave me a job there. Anytime I wanted to work, he'd give me his booth.
Yeah, sure.
He loved me. He said, take my booth. And the guys that worked there, he had 13 stations in that place.
Wow.
Yeah, and he had like at least 8 of them full with guys that could really fucking draw and
for
shit.
Sure.
You know?
For sure. That
and I used to just do the standard shit
you know?
that walked in. And, you know, which was cool. I'd do 3 or 4 days and, you know, and then the rest hang out with my daughter and the kids. And they were small and shit. But getting back to the fair thing, then I invited him to come up and like, you know, sharing with him. It started to dwindle where, you know, it wasn't. And then I think I had him one more time where I almost like lost money being there.
Yeah,
because what happens there is they want you to have a $300,000 to $500,000 slip and fall liability policy.
What?
And not everybody will write you for tattooing.
Yeah.
I found one guy that was behind me that knew an insurance agent, so for close to 8 bills.
How long is it? A week?
Yeah, it's 7 days. It starts on a Sunday and ends on a Saturday.
Yeah, some fairs or,
all right?
Yeah.
So for a few years, I never showed them a certificate of insurance.
No.
Like, I skated like, and then all of a sudden it came down like in red stamp. They send you the contract in January.
Right.
You got to send in the deposit by March 31st
Right.
for the year or whatever. I think I already sent it in. Yeah, long ago. But anyway, so I had to get this insurance from the guy, which is close to $800 a year. So now this is on top of like, the gate for the week is for the space. I got a space that's 10 feet wide by 14 feet long. That's for the trailer by 15. It's like close to $400 for the week. So that's off the top of the thing. So now,
that ain't bad for a week, man.
Right.
You know, if you're making money.
well, the thing was, when it was hot on a Sunday, I couldn't get set up fast enough. Joe would be outside. I made him the front guy, and he'd be writing the names down, who was next. And he'd go to me, when are you going to be ready? I already went like the night before or 2 nights and put what I wanted to put in there, but I didn't put my machines and shit until the day I went there. So I said to him, give me 15, 20 minutes sending the first guy. Then he'd go, how long you got on that? How long you got on this? And you know, the first day you got off the nut almost. But also for that money, it covers my shop for slip and fall, and for 10,000 fire and 10,000 theft.
Right.
So I always warmly say, when the day comes, I'm just gonna empty the whole place out myself, leave the door open, and call the insurance company. I've been robbed. No, I'm only joking. I wouldn't do that. But anyway, but what happens is now it's become, everybody you see at the fair is tattooed. So it's no more the novelty that it once was. Luckily, this past year was more than decent, more than half. I came out with it, much better than if I would have been in the shop, which, you know, definitely was. Now, I got to drive 20 miles each way there and back every day for 7 days, and they want you there from 12 in the afternoon, which I put 1 o'clock, I'll be in, or, you know, and usually it used to be like I'd be there at least till midnight, you know. Now, what's in the grandstand is over by 10 o'clock, they all just go right out the gate. Or the day has become, you get there in the afternoon, I put out the boards, you gotta put the clamps on, the lights, this, that. I get it set up. My son's out there, or I had my nephew the last 2 years because my son went on vacation, which I did better with my nephew there because he talks a lot of shit to a lot of people. But anyway, yeah, he's pretty cool. And anyhow, but it's like you do one when you first get there, then like 3 hours go by, you're doing nothing. Then you'll get a little run of like 3 more, and then nothing. And then maybe 8 o'clock, you'll get 2, and then by 9:30, you're sitting there looking. By 10, they're starting to go out the gate, you know, and anytime that's why I always had somebody in the front to absorb the stupidity and the nonsense and the questions. Because like old men that had tattoos from Coleman would go, you know how much I paid for this? And I used to go, yeah, $250. They go, how'd you know? I go, you got it from Coleman, right? Go for. You know, they go, wow, kid, you know that? I went, yeah. How much would it be now? I said, $80. They went, oh, they went up that much? I went, how much is a fucking gallon of gas? Like, you know.
Come on, man.
Yeah, what the fuck?
Never heard of inflation.
You know, but the whole novelty of it is, or they go, you do any free handwork? I go, there's 58 sheets out there of designs.
For you.
I said, this is what I do. Oh, that's what you do. If I bring you something, I go, look, if you bring it to the shop, that's one thing. Out here, I'm not doing no custom work. I do what I can do in an hour and do it right, and that's the end of the story.
Absolutely.
So if you see something you like, you'll be next. Oh, there's no line. I remember when you know, people go to me, they always were so crowded. There was a line waiting. I remember it was 6 deep. I went, yeah, I remember too, but you know, so once again, another year I said, let me see what it's about again. But like I said, everybody you look at, old, young, you know, people that 10, 15 years ago wouldn't even think of having a tattoo.
I know.
Have got like this, their fucking thighs are sleeved.
And the year after that, they become tattoo artists.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's what it is. It's like it seems like
They fall
the
into
customer,
it.
the customers have turned into tattooers.
Yeah, most of
You know what I mean?
Most of them.
And it's just crazy.
And you know, a crazy thing also, I'm sorry.
I really feel like I should be doing tattoos.
Most of the guys, I came across, they go, they're tattooers, and I did their first tattoo.
No, yeah.
I meet them, they go, you did my first tattoo? I go, really? I go, what are you doing now? I'm tattooing. I go, what the fuck?
Dude, there's a lot of a lot of tattooers in Philly. They're like, man, I got my first tattoo at your shop. You know, or I did it, or Cosmo did it, or you know, so
Yeah.
I mean, you know,
Yep.
you hang around long enough, that's what happens.
That's what happens. You get, you know, and they'll go, I remember when you tattooed my father and my grandfather, you know, like, and like all the people that I did do work on, they're in their 60s and, you know, like,
Yeah, right.
they ain't, and also, like we said earlier, off camera, on camera, the young want to go to the young, they appeal to each other, they talk the same stuff, they skateboard, they listen to the same music. You know, they see somebody that's my age, your age, even you getting into.
No, it is.
It's you got to have that young guy in the. They like go right to him, good, bad, or indifferent. It's the same thing at a convention.
Oh,
They
yeah.
see something traditional they want at my table or your table, but as they get 8 rows over and the place is so many tattooers,
Yeah.
and then they'll see a young guy that's got something similar to what you had. They'll start rapping with him and they'll sit in his chair and get tattooed.
course.
Or not even remember where you are because the place is overrun by. You can't. You got to have a cop directing traffic.
1,000 booths.
Right.
Come on, man. It's
Well,
bullshit.
750 I heard with 2 at each one, so you're talking 1,400 tattooed.
Yeah, come on, man. That's
I mean,
fucked up.
you know,
It's all right, but you know what? As long as he makes money, right?
I guess that's the whole theme is
Yeah.
money. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, fuck it,
You know, I
tattooing,
mean-
and you know, like fuck making it special. You
Yeah,
know, fuck all that, right?
you know, when I get to get somebody in the chair
But it's like
that
let them have a fucking
actually
gimmick, you know?
gets a tattoo from the wall, and I look at them and I go, "You like that one?" They go, "Yeah." And I go, "Why?" I go, "No, that's a great tattoo," I says to them.
Yeah.
You know, and they go, "Really?" I go, "Yeah." In fact, I know what I bought. I had it just for the sake. Huck had all of them Nolan ones airbrushed or painted with purples and blues
Really?
behind like a 1956 double ribbon rose.
Really?
Yeah, and it's like a purple hay.
Uh-huh.
I put up 47 of them sheets.
Uh,
They bite at those sheets because I got them in other places that are the same design without that stupidity.
yeah.
And I go, "You want it with that purple and blue behind it?" They go, "You don't have to put that in." I'm going to myself, I'm doing the same thing
Yeah.
that I did 20 years ago.
Exactly.
And I'm getting 150 for this
That's crazy.
with the 2 names.
Yeah, it's crazy.
But that appeals to them, so I leave that up. Just like I left the Ed Hardy stuff up from the book.
Of
2
course.
rows of that.
Of course.
And then I wind up finding, I just found 15 sheets that Rob Freund had painted for me.
Yeah,
and
Rob
5
paid his ass off too.
Yeah, plus he had the outlines with them, and 5 sheets that Schwager had given me from 92 or something that were in my cabinet.
yeah,
I
yeah.
went, fuck this. I went and had 15 sheets laminated. You know,
Yeah.
I didn't put no tape or nothing. Rob's were on a heavy paper. I didn't even have them laminated.
Right.
So I took down 20 of them Victory Flash. I don't know
Yeah,
if you
I mean,
ever
that stuff
saw
used
that.
to, yeah, that stuff used to sell really good,
But,
but not
but
anymore.
all of a
Yeah,
sudden, I
yeah.
looked at it and it was so, you know, and I went like, let me fill up, because there's 10 on each,
I'll tell you what,
each
you know, it's
thing of
coming, you know,
that.
the kanjis are coming back.
Is
The little
it?
kanji, little
Yeah, I got a whole
Chinese
book of
symbols.
them.
Yeah, they're starting to come
I
back.
got a whole book of
Yeah,
them.
but anyway, here's the deal, and
It is what it is.
Ronnie's been around a long fucking time.
Yeah,
And if you get the chance to get tattooed by him, fucking do it. You know what I mean? This is the last of the old guard. It's it.
yeah, that's it.
It's over. After this, there's not much authenticity that's going to be around. So,
No.
you know, like, have a little respect for these guys. When you see these guys, talk to these guys, get tattooed by these guys.
Yeah.
You know, shoot the shit with these guys. That's what it's all about. Ronnie still fucking tattoos.
Yeah.
He's in Stroudsburg. He's not a hard guy to find. Go visit him. You know, you visit him there. You go to Frazetta Museum down the road. Afterwards, I mean, you make a whole day out of it, you know? If you're a real fucking tattooer, that's what you do. You know, you do shit like that. But Ronnie, I appreciate you coming
No,
and
I
sitting
appreciate
down
you
and
having me.
sharing your story and,
No,
and,
it's
and
been a
really,
pleasure.
you know, I mean,
I have no problem
this is
talking
Uncle
about
Ronnie,
it.
man. It's
Yeah,
Ronnie, you know,
that's
he's
right.
he's
The
you
ones
know,
that
he's
know me,
family.
they call me
Yeah.
Uncle Ronnie.
Yeah, this is Uncle Ronnie,
And the
and,
other
and
ones-
Uncle Ronnie, he's family, man.
Yep.
And thank you very much for doing
No,
this, Ronnie.
thank
We
you
love
for
to
having
death,
me.
brother.
I love you too, brother.
All right, man.
I'll never forget this. This
And-
is a good interview.
Absolutely,
Out
brother.
of all of them, I like
Of
what
course
went
it
on
is.
here because
Of
it's
course,
a
of
real
course.
situation and it's all real. None of it's fake.
No,
And
no,
anybody
no
could-
fakeness here. Man.
Anybody can try to contradict me or call me on anything, and I got news in other people's stuff that they write about things. They put in things that I know for a fact.
Bullshitters are gonna
fact.
bullshitters are gonna bullshit.
Right.
That's the way it
But
goes.
in other
But
words, if
maybe next time, we'll get it next time. Maybe we'll do. We'll go around at the next prestige
we'll
convention.
do a historical.
Yeah.
Who's full of shit and who isn't?
Yeah, yeah.
You know
Well,
what I mean?
People can't handle that shit.
No,
So.
no.
All right, and that's
Cool.
it for this one. Thank you, Ronnie.
It's a wrap.
We'll see you next time, brother.
Anytime.